Ewan put it nicely about that freedom, and that it should almost be, you almost wonder, is this really legal? To be able to sit on a motorcycle and have so much fun and freedom, it's just extraordinary.
When Charley Boorman set off to ride from London to New York alongside Ewan McGregor, neither of them could have known that what began as an ambitious ride around the world would go on to become one of the most influential motorcycle journeys ever captured on film. Long Way Round took what was once a niche community of adventure riders and showed millions of people that this kind of journey was possible. It inspired thousands to throw a leg over a motorcycle. Even my own parents caught the bug. Like I said, my dad rode my entire life. He never ever traveled. It was the Long Way Round that got him to actually travel. Suddenly, riding across continents and seeing the world from the seat of a motorcycle didn't feel like something that was reserved for professional adventurers. It felt like something anyone could dream of.
Ewan and I love riding together. We have this lovely kind of relationship. And every day you'd wake up in a tent or in a room, hotel room or whatever, wherever you slept, just sit there and we just laugh and just think, what's happening next?
There is a flow that you get into, and then you just start clicking off the days.
Because of that trip that we did, it completely changed my life, completely brought me back into documentary and all the stuff that I'd always, really wanted to do.
And for Charley, that first long journey wasn't the destination. It became the blueprint for a life of adventure. He's continued to chase the freedom of two wheels that first inspired so many of us.
Lots of people come up and say, because of watching Ewan and you, we got on a bike and have gone off on new adventures. It's lovely to hear.
I've always wanted to have you on the podcast.
It's very kind.
I feel like you and Ewan invented the modern adventure bike scene. I guess brought it into the mainstream. And you had a really huge influence on a lot of people, myself included. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Charley Boorman. I cannot stand over-the-top YouTubers that start every single video with like, subscribe, smash that like button. I never, ever wanted to be that guy. But in the 7 years that I've been doing this, I would see over and over and over the comments that say, man, how does this channel not have more subscribers? And on the Jett Lawrence podcast, I finally caved. And I asked the Gypsy gang to check to see if they were subscribed, because we have the data and we know that 70% of the people that watch this podcast regularly aren't subscribed. And I was really interested to see what would happen if I just straight up asked you at the start of an episode. Well, it turns out exactly 4,100 people subscribed to the podcast off that one episode alone, and 7,000 people subscribed last month. So thank you very much. And subscribing to the podcast is something that you can do completely for free, but it actually has a pretty massive follow-on effect with everything that we do. That number is in every presentation that we give to sponsors. It's in every presentation that we give to guests that we're trying to get on the pod, and a whole lot more. Those 7,000 subscribers that we got last month finally pushed us over the 100K mark on this full show channel, taking us well over 350,000 subscribers on YouTube in total. So if you still don't know whether or not you're subscribed, double check now, and thank you so much for watching. I met a Gypsy. Charley Boorman.
Hello.
Welcome to Gypsy Tales. I'm very stoked that we're doing this. For context for people listening, we randomly met at the Isle of Man TT. And I was
on the start line.
Yeah. And I was like, I need to shoot my shot here because I've always wanted to have you on the podcast.
That's very kind.
I feel like you and Ewan invented the modern adventure bike scene in a sense, and or really, I guess, brought it into the mainstream. And you had a really huge influence on a lot of people, myself included. So yeah, definitely excited to have you on. Glad the cold approach worked too, because like I very rarely do that.
No, well, listen, I think it's great. But there's something, when we met, we were standing at the start line of the TT, and these guys are going off, and for you to do their race, and it's interesting. I've been going there for years, and you walk along I suppose, which is the starting grid, which is sort of all the bikes just parked up, because the TT is it's not like the Northwest 200 Northern Ireland where it's a road race where there's multiple bikes, and at the TT it's you against the clock and the track essentially, and so they're all there, and it's interesting. Over the years I've been going along, walk across along the pit lane, and you got Michael Dunlop, who doesn't like to be approached. He does his thing, and then you've got Hickey, you've got all these other people who are there, and they're all relatively chatty. But I think it was last year I was there, and I came up, and John McGuinness was there, and who I've known for a long time, because I used to run a race team with Ewan many years ago in British Superbikes, and or help run. I can't say I ran it, but I could say that. But then people would go, "What the fuck?" But and I was just chatting away to him, and we were laughing about something, and he was super relaxed. And he went, "Oh, hang on a minute, Charlie," and he put his helmet on, and he pushed the bike to the start line and went off. And, I mean, literally, it was almost like, "Oh, I'm late," and then put the helmet on, and then off he went. And maybe and then you realize it's probably how each individual deals with it with what they're doing. And I just I just come from the Northwest 200 when I met you, and we just finished doing a documentary about the Northwest 200, and we were following a whole number of races along there, and sort of focusing more on them and the families and what goes on alongside the racing. But so it was, and we were following mainly Glenn Irwin. We were following who'd won 12 races in a row there or something,
Different breed, eh? And it's cool. It's cool that those guys are very separate from the rest of, I guess, road racing. Like you've got MotoGP, you've got World Superbike, you've got British Superbike. Not a lot of those guys cross over. It's very, very specialised. And I kind of like that about it, and you've got, I mean, there's so many things that are interchangeable in terms of disciplines, and you could race these different series, but these road race guys are extremely specialised.
They are, and they I hadn't heard the expression before until I'd been at the Northwest 200, which is in Northern Ireland, in where the Giant Causeway is. It's a really beautiful place if you ever get there. And there's in Portrush, there's a great golf course there as well if you like golf. And we're chatting away, and because it's a road race, so you've got walls and pillar boxes and
lamp
houses and driveways and stone wall. I mean, everything there. And the riders they say, this track has it's got a lot of furniture in the way, and they call it furniture. So letterboxes and dry stone walls and curbs. It's furniture, and it just made me laugh. But when I was Ewan and I met on a movie set, and I used to be an actor. And my father's a film director, and he directed things like Deliverance and Excalibur and Hope and Glory and Emerald Forest. Lots of really big movies. Point Blank, some great kind of sort of seminal movies of his era, and I met Ewan on a movie set, and then we became friends, and then we came up with this idea of Long Way. But before we did Long Way, we got involved in this race team, and it was British Superbikes.
Oh, so that was before?
Quite a long time before before Long Way. And I've known Ewan for about 30 years. And
what was the first motorcycle conversation you guys had where you went from meeting as actors on a film set to, wait, you're the same as me? You're sick as well?
Exactly. He was, I'd heard from someone told me that he owned a Moto Guzzi, California, and so when we were making this film on the west coast of Ireland, and we met each other, and we were chatting. And I said, I hear you have a motorcycle in California, and he goes, oh yeah, I do. And what about you? And I said I had what I had at the time. I think I was obsessed with sports bikes at the time. I had 2 or 3 GSX R750s. I had an R1. I had Ewan very kindly gifted me a Ducati 748 SP, which was given to him by George Lucas. When he finished one of the Star Wars
Yeah.
films, he gave it to him as a gift, and then Ewan very kindly gifted it to me, and then I managed to write it off. But
his thought process was, I'll kill myself on this thing. I'll give this to my friend
and he can
who
kill
tried
himself.
to kill himself on this thing.
So we got involved in this race, and interestingly, we had 2 riders who were racing for us, and it was a guy called David Jeffries and Matt Llewellyn. David Jeffries was a big, very famous MotoGP TT rider and had multiple wins in the TT, and it was an amazing guy, big guy, And I think there's a difference between circuit racing and road racing, where road racing it's all about finesse. It's about hitting that lap after lap after lap, and there's no furniture to get in the way, and whereas on the TT or road racing, you have to really manhandle the bike. So it's not so much about getting your knee down so much around the corners. It's a matter of really pulling those bikes around. So,
and they're so rough.
Yeah, and John McGuinness told me once, I followed him around the racetrack once on a bike, and we were talking to each other as we were going around. He goes, you come along here, he said, this is 200 miles an hour. You flat out. But he said, it's so bumpy that your vision goes, and so you can't really see. I said, but at the end of this straight, there's a left hand, there's quite a sharp left hander. How do you know when to brake if you can't see? He goes, and it's really easy. He said, there's a whole line of trees, and they're all light green, and there's one dark green tree. So when you see the dark green blur, you put your brakes on, and your vision comes back, and you take the left hander. And I just thought, fucking hell. So they are a different breed, but
and that's real.
That's
not a story.
No, it's not a story.
That is 100% real.
Yeah,
and it just sounds insane.
It's insane.
Somebody would say that.
Yeah, and then when Glenn Irwin was saying that when you're going down at the Northwest 200, there's 2 very long straights, and you do. I think they clipped 212 miles an hour, and you do that for about 30 seconds or just under 30 seconds, which is a really, really long time. And they're drafting each other, and then Jeremy Williams is saying, they're going along, and if one guy comes up beside him, they start doing hand gestures to each other and, flicking the finger or whatever it is. But he said, but you have to ride it like a jockey because it's so bumpy that you can't sit on the seat, it's because otherwise it will buck you off, and then you get a bit of head shake and kind of off you go,
Fucking animals, man.
Crazy. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Absolute animals. What was the experience of running the team like, or being a part of the team?
Well, I was involved. I mean, you and I always had the fun bits where we would sort of go to the races and help out and stuff like that. And we were a small team, in the Super Stock series, and we had R1s and that when they first came out, and that was the bike at the time.
It was the bike.
It was really, it was the first bike to have 200 brake horsepower in the back wheel from out of the crate, but they had the rake on the front forks was quite long, so they turned a little slower, and so people were stripping the engine down and superheating the headstock and bending it. Obviously not telling anyone that they were doing it, but we never did that. But so it was all that kind of shenanigans that went on, and it's a fun place to be in the pits. And I mean, you've done racing, you've spoken to loads of AMA racers and motocross and all that kind of stuff. And, you got to be sharp and switched on to succeed,
Yeah, 100%. One thing I don't ride without anymore is my Cardo. I've been using the Pack Talk Edge since it launched back in 2022, first on a ride through Vietnam and then all the way to the tip of Australia. And it's become a must-have every time I throw a leg over a bike. Whether I'm trail riding, on an adventure ride, or just out with a group of mates, being able to talk while you ride completely changes the experience. Honestly, half the fun is the banter, talking crap with your buddies, calling out the next turn, or giving someone grief after they nearly throw it away down the trail. That's what riding is all about. The Pack Talk Edge has Bluetooth 5.2 wireless JBL speakers, magnetic mounting, and Cardo's mesh communication, so everyone stays connected even when the group gets spread out. That's what I've always liked about Cardo. They're always finding ways to make the ride better, and now they have taken that one step further with the all-new Venture helmet. It's the world's first off-road helmet with fully integrated mesh communication and JBL sound built right in, giving you the protection of a premium off-road helmet with the communication technology Cardo is known for. Click the link in the description below or head to Cardo Systems to check out the Pack Talk Edge and the all-new Venture helmet. So when did you get into bikes? You don't exactly come from it's not like your dad raced or anything,
No,
you know what I mean?
I came from Hollywood,
Yeah,
I suppose. Movie sets. And we traveled around the world with this. We lived in Ireland. So when Dad made a Deliverance, he edited the movie in Dublin.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think there wasn't enough room in London at the time or whatever it was. His driver showed him this property and he was walking to work, having seen the property, I don't know, the week before. And he went past this auction house and he looked in and they were auctioning off this house. And so he walked in just to see who would buy it. And and he always says he had this out of body experience where he kind of elevated up into the roof and he was looking down at this circle of people bidding and he was watching himself bid for the house and win it. So we ended up living in Ireland, and then we would travel to South Carolina to South America to the South Pacific, all over the world making these movies. And
so you would go along with him?
Yeah, we just went along with kids, and then because we were 4 children, and whenever he needed kids in the film, he would say, "Don't hire any. I've got 4 free children."
Yeah.
So we all ended up.
I can make him do whatever I want. There's no labour laws in this house.
Yeah, I remember when the first movie I was in Deliverance, and I wasn't the banjo player, but right at the end of the movie, there's a little boy who's sitting with his mum, and John Voight comes back after this horrific adventure down this river, and there's a little boy sitting there, so I play his son, and my father said, "Look, you can, if you sit on that sofa with that bloke, I'll give you a tricycle."
No,
it sounded dodgy,
but
I really wanted the tricycle.
Yeah, when it's your dad, it's a bit different.
But and I remember the tricycle. It was a cherry red tricycle with, on the front mudguard, had these yellow flames on the front mudguard. It was really cool.
That's enough right there. Like, that's enough to get any kid hooked.
So yeah, and then it kind of went on from there. And then in Ireland, Dad then made another film with a guy called Sean Connery, and a film called Zardos, which was a kind of slightly out there film. And if anyone is listening, Google Sean Connery and Zardos, and he famously wears this outfit which look a bit like nappies. Anyway, have a look. And Jason, his son, Sean was living in our house while they were making the film, and they filmed it in Ireland. And in the shed, someone had left a Honda monkey bike. And so Jason, he was 8, I was 6 or 7 or something, and we spent hours trying to get this bike going again. Finally got it going, and then it was my turn, and I came up the driveway, and Dad and Sean were standing on the grass, and I kind of heroically rode past them as if to say, "Look at me." And as I rode past, Dad just grabbed me by the hair and pulled me off the bike, and then this bike just ploughed into a barbed wire fence, and that was it. I was hooked.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
And then just kept falling off after that.
Yeah. Wow, that's a pretty cool origin story.
Yeah, and then living in the Wicklow Mountains, it was just endless. And when we were younger, my next door neighbour, who lived on the other side of the river, he was sort of same age as me. We had dirt bikes, and we'd strap a petrol can to the back of the bike and just go into the Wicklow Mountains until we ran out, and then refueled and rode home. And so that's where it all sort of started, I suppose.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know how far back your riding went, but that's all the way.
Well, we used to ride horses a lot as well. Dad was big into horses. He had no interest in motorcycles.
Yeah.
I think my grandfather, his father, rode dispatch riding in the Second World War on a motorbike, but there was never really any kind of connection there. And Dad always thought he was this real professional horse jumper. He was just terrible. terrible horse rider. And but you had to muck all the horses out, and you had to clean them. You had to do all that stuff, and it was. And then with the motorcycle, you can just ride it all day long, lean it up against a wall, and walk into the house. It was brilliant.
I always think about it as one of the most liberating things that you can do for a kid. Yeah. Because if you think about when you're a child, especially like 6, 7 years old, right? You get told what to eat, you get told what school to go to, you get told to do your homework. There's just so few things that you're actually in control of as a child. And then when you have a motorcycle, that's all you. Just total freedom. And I just think that, maybe that's one of the reasons why kids, like young boys that ride bikes, get so hooked, because it's just such a unique taste of freedom that you can't get anywhere else as a kid, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's that lovely feeling about riding motorcycles. I think that's why a lot of people ride bikes, because you know, people talk about mental health all the time now, and about living in the present, and you know, you can't change the past, so why bother thinking about coulda, shoulda, woulda, and which is very true. But you know, but you do, because you're human. But when you get on a motorcycle, or even people who ride bicycles, or horse riding, or climbing, surfing, whatever that thing is, but just for those couple of hours, or in my case, a couple of months, that's all you think about. And Ewan put it nicely. He did a little clip the other day that seems to have gone around the internet at the moment. He talks about it beautifully, about that freedom, and that it should almost be, you know, you almost wonder, is this really legal? You know, I mean, to be able to sit on a motorcycle and have so much fun and freedom is just extraordinary, you know. And that it's nice, you know. I've had a lot of big injuries through motorcycles over the years, and it's funny how it's always been a motorcycle that takes you there, you know.
Yeah, and it's always...
that's the healing, you know. That's the bit where you want to get back on a bike.
I was about to say, that's always the end goal too. And it's very... I had a friend last year that we do a big trip in Australia. Have you done much riding in Australia?
Yeah, lots.
Okay.
Yeah, lots and lots.
Have you ever done Cape York?
No, I've not done Cape York. I've done a bit of the interior. I've ridden a lot in Tasmania.
Yeah, beautiful.
I do a motorcycle tour every year from Melbourne to Sydney via Tasmania.
Yeah, right.
So we spend 5 days in Tasmania, and then from Melbourne to Sydney over the mountains, and you know, to Brighton, Jindabyne, and all that way, and ride all that way. And so and I do it so that it's an excuse to get to Australia, and you know, because it's such a long way that you have to figure out. You can't just go every year for a few weeks. There needs to be a little bit of a purpose. But I've got lots of friends there, and I lived there when I was younger, and so yeah.
Oh, you lived in Australia?
Yeah, I lived in Sydney,
awesome.
And far north Queensland as well.
Whereabouts?
Well, in Sydney, I lived in Five Ways Paddington, which was a shithole in those days.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe, went there again the other day. I hadn't been to the house where I lived with my wife now, my girlfriend then, and we lived in the front room, which would have been the dining room, I suppose. And I was working on building sites, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And there was a drug dealer below us, and there was Five Ways Paddington pub, which is still goes well, but it's become so gentrified now.
All of Sydney is. It's insane.
But it is the most beautiful city, I think, in the world. I think it's awesome. You go, you know, early in the morning, you go surfing every morning, and you know, I just love it.
Yeah. It's honestly pretty hard to beat Australia. I always joke, especially when I come to the UK. I'm like, you guys are fucking insane. Why did you give that to us?
Yeah.
You guys just literally shipped us all over there and said, bon voyage, we'll stay in this place that fucking rains all of the time.
I know. And the beaches.
Why didn't you just leave us here?
Oh, God. And you know, I'm a big fan. I have a great friend of mine, and it's one of the reasons why I do the tours to go to. So I see, when I'm in Melbourne, I always go and see Eric Banner. He's an old friend of mine. He's an obsessed motorcyclist.
Oh, what a guy!
Absolutely love him to bits. And he's always showing me stuff that he's bought on his bike, and I'm thinking, fucker, get out there and buy something else to top him. And you know, he's such a nice guy. And then when I'm in Sydney, I hang out with Dare Jennings from who started Deus Ex Machina and stuff. He used to own Mambo, is how he started, and that was his kind of gig.
Yeah.
And they were Mambo was a kind of a surfing clothing kind of place. And they would go right up against it with Quicksilver and Rip Curl and all those people. And he's just one of the nicest men I know.
Has he still got that?
Yeah, he's just sold Deus. So
What about Mambo?
Mambo he sold in 2000. And they during the Australian Olympics, and he clothed all the officials and everybody. That was his sort of icing on the cake when he sold the business. And then he started Deus, and he's got the shop now
in Bali. He's got one.
He's got one in Bali and all over the world, and they're all called really cool different. Like the one in Bali is called Deus Ex Machina, the Temple of Enthusiasm. And all these lovely kind of names. And Deus Ex Machina is loosely translated as God is in the machine, and so that's what it's loosely sort of translated in. So I kind of do that and ride there every year.
Where did you live in Far North Queensland?
I was up in just north of Mossman, Jason Connery's mother was an actress called Deanne Shalento, and she had this amazing rare tropical fruit farm just outside Mossman.
No way.
And Ollie and my wife and I went up there, and we lived there for 6 months and
wow.
Helped out on the farm and stuff like that.
I was born in Cairns.
Oh, we'd get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow, Port Douglas. Yeah. I learned to dive in Port Douglas.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous. But that was like 40 years ago when I was there. Yeah, fucking 40 fucking years. I'm 60 in a couple of months' time.
I was -2.
You were -2
when you were living there.
Well, what makes me laugh is that I was doing some work for one of my sponsors yesterday, and I was doing this talk, and this young guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, yeah, Charlie, I was 7 years old, and I used to sit on the sofa and watch Long Way Round with my dad." And I just think, oh, for God's sake.
It just goes though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just goes.
I mean, it's funny, I've got this TV show thing that I'm doing, just about to start doing, and I'm calling it, it's called 20 Summers.
Yeah.
So, because I've only got 20 summers left.
Yeah, right.
And it's all about, being 60 and retiring, and what do you do? And so that's the sort of TV thing, but I don't know if it's a bit morose calling it 20 Summers, but...
No, I think it's a good perspective to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, have you read the book 4,000 Weeks?
No.
Oh, that can be a podcast gift.
Okay.
I'll get this for you.
I'd love
but
to.
basically, 4,000 Weeks Time and How to Use It by Oliver Burkeman.
Uh-huh.
And because, basically the human life has 4,000 weeks, like on average.
Much, is it?
No, when you put it into perspective.
Yeah, looking at a young one over here.
I know, 23.
23.
But
he's going, you too fucking old. He's sitting there with your grey hair talking about 20 summers.
But he's the 63-year-old, 23-year-old. So.
But do you remember when I was younger, it's not so much there now, but I mean, the cane toads.
Oh, they're still there.
They're still there as much.
Fuckers, man. The amount of money I've spent on my dog licking those things.
Yeah, it was, I mean, when you'd drive to the pub of an evening and you'd count how many you hit on the way, and then you'd try and beat it on the way back. That's a terrible thing to say. Cut that out.
My wife's from Russia, and so she lives in Australia now, and she has a golf club that is in our backyard, and she just finds it to be the most
driver.
Oh, dude, and she thinks it's like the funniest shit. And every night, because our dog will go outside and basically fucking lick these toads.
Yeah.
And we've had all these vet bills with this.
I know, that's horrible stuff. I mean, and essentially the cane toads were introduced to kill
the cane beetle.
The cane beetle that was eating all the sugar cane and
But turns out beetles can fly.
Beetles can fly, and cane toads, have no natural enemy in Australia. So a bit like rabbits, it's funny. Yeah, humans.
Well, you need to do. I'm going to put a ride on you. Maybe this can be part of your 20 summers.
Yeah.
You need to ride from Cairns to the tip of Australia.
Oh, yeah, up to Cape Trib, all through Cape Trib and Cape York. I did that once on a TV show, and we went right up to the top, and then we flew over to in a little small plane to Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea, yeah.
And then I drove in this truck partly across Papua New Guinea and then on motorbikes. It's quite feral up there.
It's pretty wild up there.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That
yeah.
is out
A lot
there.
of drinking up there.
Yes.
It's a dangerous place.
Well-
I mean, I remember going through this town once, and it was on a Saturday afternoon, and people had been on the lash, and as we were riding through, I saw these 4 guys, and this one guy had this big 4x4 piece of timber, and as I went past, he just whacked it over my back. Luckily, I was sort of going the same way. He was trying to take me out, and
It is no.
and then they all kind of laughed, thinking it was really funny,
Yeah, dude, it is no joke up there.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Cairns, and so my dad was a motorcycle rider forever. Like, there's never not been a bike in our shed at home, And so I did that, like, Cairns to, I think the first time I was 2, the next time I was 5. Like, it was just, that's pretty much like where we did all of our holidays.
Did you ever do the one? I did it once. I did it a number of years ago, where you follow the power lines up.
Yeah, the telly track.
The telly track, and I did that once, and then they've got these.
And you
they've
did
got
that
these,
in a car?
No, I did it on a dirt bike.
Oh, you did do it on a bike.
with a whole bunch of locals from Mossman.
Yeah.
And they very kindly invited me along, and and do you remember I was explaining about those things, those bushes called wait-a-whiles?
Yes.
And they're these long vines that go down, got these massive like hooks, huge motherfucker hooks sitting there like that. And the reason they call them wait-a-whiles is because if you get into one, you're just stuck there.
You got to wait a while.
And you just got to wait a
out.
while for someone to come and help you get out. And it rips the clothes and rips your skin. And I sat there.
So you got done by one?
I got done by one. And the bike went on, and I was just sort of hanging there waiting. And all the guys who I was riding with all took photos first, and then eventually,
helped
me out. Yeah, but
dude,
it was really good. It's good riding up there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, so I was going to say you should do that trip if you haven't already done it. But I took a friend last year. He just retired from his sport, and he'd spent his whole life being a protected species, basically. Couldn't do anything. And so he retired, was like, we're going to Cape York. And he ended up crashing on the first day, which was incredibly unfortunate. But
does happen though.
First day fever.
Yeah.
But he pulled his shoulder out, and on the side in Mossman, actually, is basically as far as it got. And
It's not very far.
No. We had
There's some nice pubs in Mossman though.
Well, we were on our way to a bakery to get a pie and a sausage roll and a coffee before we did the crab track.
Australian religion is a pie shop. I mean, I've never seen so many pie shops in my life. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
They're just so, you bring me back. You're giving me nostalgia.
Yeah.
I'm there soon, so I'll have one. But so we're on the side of the road. When you're a dirt bike rider, of course, you have an upper limb surgeon that you can FaceTime at any hour of the day. So we're on FaceTime, like trying to pull his shoulder in or whatever. But anyway, long story short, gets flown back, operated the next day. We finished the trip, but he was in hospital, and he was, I think I'm done riding, and I'm just, like, maybe it's not for me. 2 days later, fuck, I need to do it again. So to your point before, like you get hurt on them, and then they suck you back in, but they end up being the North Star that you point towards as I'm recovered, I'm back, I'm healed, and now I can continue this love affair. Yeah,
no, it is. I mean, there is. I mean, there's been, I suppose, lots of kind of comebacks for me over the years. I've never been injured I've pulled my back and other little tiny things when Ewan and I go riding, adventure riding, and through, I remember we were in the Far East Russia once on the, just coming onto the Road of Bones, which is this piece of road that we rode, which is the last bit of road that we rode to get to Magadan. And it's called the Road of Bones, or nicknamed the Road of Bones, because for every kilometre there are 4 Gulag prisoners buried in the road as it was being built. And I remember, and there's, you've got to remember, on this road from north, there's nothing until you get to the North Pole. There's no road. And then if you go south, there's another 1,000 kilometres of just no road. So you're completely in the middle of nowhere, totally in the middle of nowhere. And I park up, and Ewan parks up, and Claudio, our cameraman, comes out, and he parks up right beside me. I mean, so close. And as I'm getting off the bike, there's a little dip, and my bike starts to fall, and I land on Claudio's bike, and I'm trying to hold this big monster of a bike up, and I pull something in my back, and I just look around the crowd, and I said, "You got the whole of fucking Siberia, and you park, a foot beside me." And he goes, "Oh, I don't know, Charlie. I was I'm just parking," and he just wandered off.
But no injuries other than that.
No injuries for that. And then
it's a long way to ride without getting hurt.
yeah. And we did some pretty gnarly places, some really gnarly riding. But then I did the Dakar Rally after that. So from the success of Long Way, and we're sort of jumping ahead, I suppose, there a bit.
That's fine.
But because when we started doing Long Way, my acting career had kind of died a little bit, and I'm very dyslexic. And I was finding it really difficult
to read the lines
to do
and to
castings and read the line.
Yeah.
And I could easily do the part, but it was just becoming more and more stressful. So I was kind of walking away a little bit more and more. And so over sort of a 10-year period, it just slowly kind of disappeared. But I was doing the Odd movie, and that's where I met Ewan. And then we ran that motorbike race team, and then we came across. Thought Ewan kind of he rang me up one evening and said, "Oh, Charlie, do you want to come to my house? I've got this idea." And he had this big map out on the thing. We were going to go down to Spain and meet our wives and children down in south of Spain, ride down there, holiday. And he goes, "Fuck Spain, let's go to China." And then somehow I went from China to New York. I don't know. And someone mentioned the Road of Bones. We thought, well, we'll go there and through Mongolia. And but it was quite a journey to get that going, because no one had really understood what we were trying to do. And anyway, but because from that, it kind of was a slow burner. It took time, but it started to gain momentum, and it ended up being what it is. But off the back of that, I convinced some people to give me some money to go and race the Dakar Rally on a motorbike. And so had no fucking clue what I was doing. I just
crazy
did some
race to enter.
Schoolboy motocross and grass racing and enduro, but that was about it. But then ended up doing that. But that was the. Actually, I can't remember what I was talking about.
We're talking about some injury stuff.
Oh, injury, yeah.
But did you get hurt on the Dakar ride? Or?
Yeah, well, we managed to get a TV show going, and the whole idea was we did a TV show called Race to Dakar.
You rode to Dakar, right?
Yeah. So the race was from Lisbon to Dakar.
Yeah.
Doing the Dakar Rally, and there's 240 bikes.
Yeah.
A couple of hundred cars, 160 trucks that all race, and you do between 600 and 800 kilometers a day.
Yeah.
Off road, and you have road books that you have to read, and they just send you out there into the desert, and off you go. And the time I did it in 2006 was in Africa, and anyway, on day 5, I think I was in the 80s of riders, and so I was doing okay, and then I think most people who crash on the Dakar Rally have big crashes often because they're looking at their road book, and then you look up and you see treble danger on the road book, and you look up and there it is.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And you're fucked. And I just had this stupid crash and broke my hands, and then thought, shit, it's day 5. I'm making this TV show. I've broken my hand. I'm thinking I couldn't push the bike off me because there was all this crunching going on in my hand, and I'm thinking shit, and everything is spiraling in my head, and I'm stuck in a wadi or an old riverbed, and the next car or bike or truck comes is not going to see me, and so I was panicking. Luckily, another rider saw me and parked the bike at the top and came running down, and it was this guy Matt, who was my teammate in it, and he came down. He goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And you get up, and I'm going, "Oh, my hand." He goes, "No." Anyway, so I got up, got on the bike, and rode out, and this hand all the bones were broken across here, but my thumb and forefinger I could sort of ride, and I thought, okay, I'll just get to the end of the day, and there's loads of doctor and nurses there, and I'd seen some guy have a cast in his hand. And there's a handlebars in the medical tent, and he held the handlebar in the medical tent to make so that he could ride again. I thought, I'll just do that. I'll just go and do that. And anyway, so I came up and I was riding on with 400 kilometers to go, and I then noticed my other hand, and my thumb was just dangling dangling. And then it dislocated, and I thought, oh, fuck, that's 2 hands. Anyway, so I kind of banged it on the handlebars, and it kind of sort of went back into place. Anyway, carried on and got to the end of the day, and which was another 400 kilometers or so. And then my hands were like balloons, and went to the medical tent, and they got like 40 doctors and nurses and 10 helicopters and 20 aircraft, and they feed 2,500 people every night.
It's wild, isn't it?
And and it's good French food. It's good 3-course meal with wine, so I went to the doctors, and this French guy comes up to me, Charley, he says, oh, you've broken both your hands. It's impossible for you to make the Dakar.
Not possible.
He said, I'm not even sure if you can wipe your own ass. Anyway, he was wrong. I could get a little baby wipe on my finger, and I could get around and I could wipe my own ass. So that showed him. But that was, that was a shame not to finish.
So what did you guys do about the TV side of things?
I stayed on, and then sort of became, because we had 3 of us were in the team.
Yeah.
And then I stayed on as kind of, I suppose, team manager, or whatever
Mascot
type of thing. Yeah, and running around trying to help Simon Pavey and Matt. With 2 casts in my hands, I was useless. Oh. But then we sort of filmed everything that goes on around the whole thing, and finished the TV show, and it's a nice show.
Yeah. But, man, that's a bummer. There's a lot of weight and responsibility as well. That's one thing that people probably wouldn't understand if you're not in the position that you guys are when you're making these shows. Because and I feel it too on some of the stuff that we do when we film. But it's like, you just can't crash, you can't get hurt. Like, so much rides on you staying on that motorcycle, being sensible, but also making it worth watching. Like, you don't just want to mosey around, and like you want to make it look like you can ride a motorcycle, but you've got to tread a very fine line between staying on it and.
But it's a very cool race. I mean, it was something I'd always wanted to do, and you have to qualify to be able to race it. So you have to sort of get a license type thing. You have to prove that you can ride, and so you have to do all these 2-day, 3-day enduros to get. And when I first started, I thought I could ride a bike, but I was just so delusional about, I'd do these 2-day enduros, and just about everybody would just go flying past me, and it was, and I just thought, oh my God, could I really actually do this? And eventually it kind of managed to get going, and it was fine. But it's interesting, that people talk about road books, and they talk about how complicated they are to read. And one of the complicated things I was talking about it to someone last night, and if the three of us in this room are going down a 5-kilometer road, all 3 of us will write a different road book as to how to get down that road. And so when you see that first day's road book, the night in those days it was the night before. Now it's the morning of, and you look at it, and it's interesting because it takes a day or so to get into it, because you have to get into that person's mind. So you have to learn how that person thinks in order to be able to read their road book.
Were they in French then?
No, it was all just symbol. So it's like a kilometer 226.
Yeah.
Enter Old Riverbed, treble danger. So you'd have 3 exclamation marks, and then on exit of Riverbed, compass bearing 116, and then it would have how many kilometers to the next point. But then your front wheel sometimes runs slow or runs fast, so you have to keep calibrating your road mileometer to the road book as you're going along.
That's, you've got to scroll.
So you find a solid marker, and then you've got to roll the paper and get the road book to match each other, while you're sort of banging along.
It's a crazy
great fun.
Race. Yeah.
Great fun.
Yeah, we had Tosha in here the other day, and he was saying that he learnt how to use the road books by playing the Dakar PlayStation game.
Yes, yeah. Well, back in 2006, sadly.
It was probably not as available back then, yeah.
We had Pac-Man,
Well, and Davey was saying that he learned the Isle of Man course from the Isle of Man PlayStation game as well.
Yes, yeah. Lots and lots of people do. So,
crazy.
So, and so if I go and do a track day on a track that I haven't ridden, I'll play the the PlayStation version of it just to get an idea of what. Because when I was younger, I was so obsessed about doing track days. I kind of wished I'd been a racer. I think I came to sports bikes a bit too late.
Yeah.
But then I would go to we were so lucky in Britain to have so many really good racers, Donington, Alton Park, Snetterton, Mallory. It just goes on, Knock Hill. And then someone introduced me to the Nürburgring, the old Nürburgring, and then I became obsessed about that and did dozens and dozens and dozens of laps around there, and that was very cool.
Was that on a bike as well?
On a motorcycle as well, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And it's quite scary on a motorbike because it's all just Arncope the whole way, but it's my God, it's made so undulating. You know, you come up to some corner and you're going along and you're thinking, right, this is a right-hander, and you're getting ready to go right, and you come to the crest and it's a lefty, and
No way.
Yeah, and carousel, this banked corner that you drop in late and pin it around. And then when you're doing that, you know, I remember going around with another guy, and we were going around dropping into the carousel, going around, and there was a bus riding around the outside with tourists in it, and they were all taking photos. As you could feel the flashing. And then you come up to cars. They have the Nürburgring taxi, so they have all these saloon car drivers come and they take people around the Nürburgring, and I mean, it's a bonkers place.
Yeah, I've still never been there.
Oh.
It's on the bucket list. I didn't know that you could ride bikes around there.
Yeah.
That seems very crazy.
Yeah. It's a bit like, you know, when you go skiing, you get a little ski pass, it's just a tap thing. So you go around a lap and then you come off onto the thing, and then you go straight back again. You tap your thing and you buy your laps, and off you go.
Did you learn that before you went, or you went there pretty much?
No, I went there pretty much. I went with some friends who'd done it before, and then I hooked up with this guy. He was on a G6R 750 as well as I was, and I was going okay, but I was struggling with the line when I first got there. And this guy, I didn't know who he was, and he came up, similar bike, and he came past me and came in front of me, and then tapped his bike on the back and to say follow him. And so I followed him, and we went round the lap together, and he was showing me the course, and was pointing at certain bits as to where to turn in and stuff. Anyway, we got into the car park afterwards, and I stopped beside him, and he took his helmet off, and he must have been in his late 70s.
No way.
And yeah, he was fit as fuck, but he was in his late 70s, and we chatted, and he bought this G6R, and there was 26,000 miles on the clock. And he said that, well, there's 26,000 miles. He said, I rode the bike from London to Nürburgring, and he has a little one-bedroom flat with a garage. And he said the rest of the miles have just been around the Nürburgring. And he just goes for the weekend or for whatever it is and just does laps.
That's incredible.
Amazing.
That's living. That's a guy that has figured
out. Talk about 20 summers.
Dude,
you know, if you're going to go and do that.
Fuck, what a legend. Yeah, that would be a place where you would have to spend a lot of time. It would be very similar to the
time to
Ironman,
learn.
you know.
Well, yeah, the Ironman is 36 miles.
Yeah.
So you have to learn that, and then and that's only you can essentially if you want to learn the TT and race it, essentially there's only 8 days a year that you can actually get on the track for a few hours at a time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, it's just normal roads. Whereas at least the Nürburgring is kind of open all the time. It's still classed as a public road, but you can go around it and it's open all the time. And you know, you're banging along thinking you're absolutely fantastic, and then some Porsche comes past you.
Just ripping.
Yeah. I remember one time there was this Nürburgring taxi, and there was like 4 people and three passengers who had been given a show of a lap, and we're coming down. I can't remember what corner it was, and we're coming down, and the saloon car rider was giving them, you know, plenty of the old drifting and all this kind of stuff. And I was barreling down towards this bike, and he'd flipped the car sideways to go down into this corner, and I was barreling into the guy in the back seat, and he was holding on the armrest, and he was looking at me, and you could see all his knuckles were white, and his face, the fear on his face, and then this car just whipped around and just disappeared up the road. But An amazing place.
Yeah, what a place. Have you seen any of the stuff that Max has been doing around there lately?
No, not lately. No,
Man,
no.
I think he's really bringing back the whole
Love affair.
Nürburgring thing. And I think he's like, obviously it's always been a thing, but I think with him racing the 24 hours and just doing what he's doing, it's breathed whole new life into that.
But I remember there was Barry Sheen, who was a great MotoGP rider.
Yeah.
And I had a poster of him on my wall. I was completely obsessed by Barry Sheen. And there's a great story because back in the day in MotoGP, they used to race the old circuit.
Yeah, right.
And so every year they go back, and so he'd been lent this Rolls Royce to go around this very undulating, twisty, turny circuit, which is a 16 miles. So it takes a bit of time to learn it. And he went round. He was with all his contemporaries. I think there was I can't remember who else was in the car, but it was all the MotoGP guys at the time. And they would go around this race, but the Rolls Royce was so wallowy that they were all getting car sick. So they would all do a few corners, and then they would all be swapping driving, so that none of them would get a chance not to feel car sick going around this Nürburgring. That's how they were sort of reminded themselves of where they. But then Niki Lauda, that's where he crashed. I think it was the Nürburgring. I think, if I'm right in saying, but where he got burned.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the Dakar stuff, did you have any ambitions to go back after it? Did it feel like a box left unticked, or is it just too brutal of a place? Like, you've got to be so prepared for it.
I think you've got to be. I think the preparation. I think you have to be bike fit to do it.
Yeah.
If you can do a 2-day, if you can finish strong in a 2-day, 3-day enduro, there's nothing at the TT that wouldn't be any harder than that. But it's putting the 16 days together.
Yeah.
And it's the it's the road book. It's the 600-800 kilometers every day. It's a long way off road, and then you have the racing bit, but then the liaison bits in the front and the back.
They can be 4 or 5 hours sometimes.
Yeah, they can finish the whole, and then you've got another 200 kilometers to do at the end, and you're not jumping on tarmac. You're riding out of somewhere, so you've got another 100 kilometers of the same shit you've been racing in to get out to a piece of tarmac, and by the time they get to the tarmac, it's night, and it goes on. So that's the thing. It's very expensive to do as well, and I kind of did it. I kind of would like to have done it, but then I jumped into doing Long Way Down with Ewan, and then I was just doing other stuff, and then more recently had a lot of injuries. More recently. And so I don't think my body would be able to cope with that anymore.
Yeah, which is quite fair, because I just, it's always one where that would be the one thing that I would like to do, but don't know if I could do it. You know,
Well, it's the
it's one of
ultimate
those, it's like way out there. I'm like, I reckon I could probably do that, but I don't know if I need to.
That's a good point. But there was I think it's one of those things, isn't it? If you're a racer, the ultimate race, road racer, if you're a track racer or whatever you want to be, a sports bike racer, the ultimate would be the TT. If you ride dirt bikes in Supercross or motocross or enduro, whatever it is, the ultimate is the Dakar Rally, and so I suppose, and I always wanted, before it got too late, I always wanted to have a, I'd never really raced properly before, I'd done school stuff and, just local stuff, but I'd never had a race number that meant anything. And this was my one opportunity to be able to do it and to have a number that counted for something. And
what number did you get?
It was a 172.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
I can remember that, but it took me a month to remember my wife's name when I first went out with her.
That's so good. It's funny though. That's a thing. Like the whole race number. Like he's got his number, I got my number. Like when it definitely becomes a. But
you remember I remember afterwards, and I was signing some stuff, and after Dakar Rally for a little bit, I would sign it 172 with the little hash thing, and I would sort of look at it and think, That's my race number.
Oh, that's
It was a dream,
Yeah.
and I've been, there's been lots of ups and downs in life, but I've been like all of us have, but been, lucky enough to be able to do some bits and pieces.
You've definitely done a few. You've definitely done a few cool things. So before we get right into the long way stuff. So, what's that 10-year period like where you're kind of not acting and not? Because I got friends that are athletes. I've got a couple friends that are like trying to be actors in a sense, and I look at it and like it all looks pretty brutal. To be an actor seems to be extremely brutal. To be a racer seems brutal. Like they seem like quite brutal pursuits. And I think maybe acting even more so because it's quite subjective.
Well, and either you're too fat, too thin, too tall, too small, wrong coloured hair, wrong eyes.
They haven't eaten lunch yet, and they're kind of grumpy.
And as well as that, most castings, they've already decided who they want anyway. And so most of the time when you're doing castings, it's a pointless pursuit anyway, because, they've already got someone in mind.
They're just doing
usually.
it.
I mean, if you're casting for some, you would have already thought who you want, right? But then you have to
go through the process.
Go through the process. And for me, and I'd had a lot of success when I was younger. So I'd made a film called The Emerald Forest, which was very successful. We traveled all over the world promoting it, and then consequently made quite a number of other films after that. And then to sort of really struggle because of dyslexia was the thing that really kind of ruined it for me, really. And I thought that I was going to be this person, and then slowly I started painting and decorating because I needed some money. Then I started doing people's houses up, and in that 10-year period, and I was small kids, and I kind of realized, I was thinking, shit, this is it, and I had to really do a kind of a mind change. And I kind of felt that I'd let my wife down, I'd let my kids down, and I'd let myself down, because I hadn't. Because when she met me, I was this actor who had done stuff, and then there I am, this guy painting, decorating, and building, which is a great thing to do anyway. But it wasn't what I was thinking of doing, and so and that was a 10-year. But there was always a tiny bit of hope because I'd do the odd little small part in a film or a part in the film, whatever. So it was kind of a false hope, I suppose. And that it wasn't the nicest of times. But then I thought, what, that's it. I'm just going to get on with it, and then started really trying to start doing the building thing and trying to make some money and get on with it. But then I made this film with Ewan and called The Serpent's Kiss, which it was with Pete Postlethwaite, Greta Scacchi, Richard E. Grant, Ewan McGregor, Cameron Chapman, and myself. And I thought, I'm back, and we had a blast on that film. We were west coast of Ireland. We had such a good time, and then the film came around and it went straight to DVD, and I think from DVD straight to the bin. So it didn't go anywhere.
Was it a good film?
It was okay. It wasn't great, but it was a great story, good script, but just
didn't
like
come
so
out.
many films and so many business deals or whatever, it just didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot in movies, But movies are a little bit like, if you're an actor, they're a little bit like Formula One or MotoGP or Supercross. There's tens of thousands of people who are vying and want that job, and there's only, was it 20 drivers in Formula One or 22 drivers, whatever it is, 24 now.
Yeah.
And same in MotoGP. There's only
It's only 20 of them,
22, 20 of them. And then there's all these other people who want to be that thing, and and it's tough, and you got to get lucky a little bit. You got to meet the right people.
Well, it's so subjective. There's nothing. I mean, I guess if you've got like super philosophical about it, there probably is objectively good actors and objectively good performances. But I mean, just to even get to that point of being able to put in an objectively good performance, it's so subjective the entire way around. And, you can see like, I'm not a massive movie person. I kind of used to be, but for whatever, I think just being busy or whatever, it just hasn't been a thing for the last little bit. But you look at someone like Pedro Pascal, who was literally nowhere at all, and then all of a sudden is everywhere. So it's like there's been somebody or a group of people that's just been like, that's the guy. And then he becomes the guy, you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's like with my father. He was working the BBC. He was documentary and factual. He was one of the first people to start going out and doing live broadcasting. And he made some big documentaries and stuff, and he wanted to be a film director, and he'd made a film called Catch Us If You Can with the Dave Clark Five, and they were kind of this band at the time. But by the time the film came out, the Dave Clark Five were passé, you know, but you know, Lee Marvin had seen that film and something else that Dad had seen, and he approached my dad and said, I want you to direct my next movie. And he was the biggest guy in Hollywood at the time. And to all the producers in America, well, who the fuck is this guy? You know. Anyway, then Dad did it and was very successful, and that launched his career. But it takes
it's just a bit of blind luck.
Bits and pieces like that, or somebody to see something in you to say, actually, I want this person, you know, and it goes off. And sometimes it can be that, or Brad Pitt when he did Thelma and Louise, you know, it was an incredible movie. He was fabulous in that part, and boom, you know, it takes a moment, you know, and so, yeah, so that 10 years was difficult, and then but met Ewan, and then we became friends, ran motorbike race teams together, or helped run, I would say, you know, in inverted commas. Went down and just had a blast, you know, and one of our So and then when we so that was and then we went on to Ewan saying, look, I've got this idea. Come to the house, look at this map, and then we'll head off to Russia, and then it started from there. But it wasn't easy to, you know, I don't think anyone really quite understood what we were doing.
For sure. And you can see that at the very start of the film. People are just like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like, this won't work. No, and you don't even have a cameraman.
Yeah, and then camera, and then I remember we were trying to pitch it to people, and we just weren't getting that kind of traction, and people said, and the thing is, so then someone said, you know, why not write a book about it, and so we went to a book publisher, and they liked the idea. It was two best friends going off around the world on motorbikes, have no idea what's going on. You know, a great start to a book, you know, and so they liked it. So that kind of gave us a little bit of traction. And then, but trying to sell it to the TV station, you would say to people, oh, you know, we're going to go around the world. And, you know, and they said, what's going to happen? We said, no idea.
Yeah, don't know
and they go, well, that's not a very good TV show, is it? And so they didn't want to do it. And so then, so Ewan was making Moulin Rouge or Star Wars, I can't remember, in Australia. And so we flew out to Australia, and we went for a weekend. We rented a couple of Teneres, the old Teneres,
the old ones,
and it's a tent, and we went for a ride, and we camped, and we filmed it, and then we used that to sort of
a little bit of
like
a
as a sizzle to sort of show people, you know, what we were trying to do, and we managed to get this sort of deal in America. And we were sitting in the in Los Angeles in the Chateau Marmont hotel, and we'd done this. We were sitting around, and the agent rang us. He said, you know, I've got you the deal. It's $4 million. You can go and make it. And we were thinking, fuck. $4 million. And then 20 minutes we ran back, and he goes, no, it wasn't $4 million, it was $400,000. we said, can you just put the cork back in that champagne, please? But anyway, so we kind of got that, and then my wife's sister's husband was running Sky One at the time, and he'd passed on the TV show, and so when we were having the leaving party, they came along, and we'd had all these TV screens showing what we'd filmed so far about the prep and all that kind of stuff. And then he said, oh, I get it. And then a courier turned up the next day with a contract. And for us, Sky One at the time was actually quite good. By the time we finished the film, they showed it like 22 times or something. So it was a real slow burner, and it wasn't like an instant success. It kind of, people found it, but we did have a blast making it though.
Oh man,
it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You would think that it would be an easier sell in hindsight, right?
Yeah, you would in hindsight. But then I suppose at the time, wasn't, nothing like that had really been done.
Yeah.
And actually, but when we went to Australia, we did that sizzle, and then we went and met, I think, Channel 8, or I can't remember who it
Channel
was.
7 maybe?
Channel 7 maybe.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd pitch it while we're there. Anyway, the guy there, I can't remember his name, we pitched it to him, and we said, what do you think? And he said, well, do you know what I really think? We go, we'd love to know. And he said, I just think two wankers on motorcycles.
You're like, well, kind of.
Oh, that was like, okay, well, that's sort of true, but anyway, so that was that. But anyway, I think a year and a half later or something, we sold it to them, and for good money. And I was back in Australia to promote it, and they did this whole morning TV, the morning TV show, and they dressed the whole set with tents and a motorcycle, and this whole thing, because this thing had already had some traction, and I went to the receptionist and asked if the guy was there, and she said he's not.
No way.
So anyway,
passed
fuck
on
him.
passed on the deal and fucking got the boot.
Well, but yeah, so it was fun. But then the adventure of heading out was just extraordinary. I remember leaving London and I'd left my wife. We both left our children. Ewan had left his two daughters behind, left mine behind, going off for 4.5 months.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. And my wife, I left her we got a mortgage and we're doing a roof extension and with the two kids, and we were broke, Ollie and I, when we left. Yeah, I had like 5,000, 7,000, 8,000 pounds in the bank. That was all. And we were sort of, and I made a deal with Ewan and Dave and Russ that I would get a weekly salary that I'd pay to Ollie.
Yeah.
So that she had money to do what she needed to do.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
I don't think many people would know that.
No, and so it was. I suppose it was a risk to go, but then I didn't have anything.
But you
to
also
lose
didn't have
either.
anything to lose, did you?
And then we thought at best, we'd do it, and then if nobody was interested, then we'd have a great video to sort of laugh at when we're in our 80s.
If you ride, you already know how important it is to have the right gear and parts when you need them. That's where motosport.com comes in. It's your one-stop shop for everything motocross and off-road. Whether you're looking for OEM parts, fresh riding gear, or upgrading your setup, they carry all the top brands, so you're not wasting time bouncing between different sites trying to piece it all together. It's all in one place, easy to find and ready to ship. And the best part is it is built for riders. Whether you're at the track every weekend or just getting laps in when you can, motosport.com makes it easy to get exactly what you need without the hassle. No guessing, no digging around, just the parts and gear you trust all in one spot. Next time you need to dial in your bike or refresh your gear, head over to motosport.com and get back to doing what matters most, and that's riding. Is there a part of you that kind of was going on that ride to try and figure it out? Because there's a lot of, if you're in that position where you don't really have that much money, you got a mortgage, and it's kind of, like you've got nothing to lose. To spend 4 months on a motorcycle just listening to yourself think, there's definitely. I've been on rides where I'm like, you know what? I'm excited to just fucking figure out my life for the next 10 days.
And switch off from the world a little bit. It's a little, going for 4.5 months, a little selfish maybe, going off and, it's a bit like if you're a motorcycle racer, you're a little bit selfish because...
You kind of have to be.
You kind of have to be. Because you're taking lots of risk but yeah, I think I went off excited. I think what it did give me was a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
And the Dakar thing kept popping up, and actually one of the things when my daughter Dune, my first daughter, was born, my sister Talsha, who was the older one, she had ovarian cancer, and she didn't make it, but very luckily, she met my daughter Dune just before she passed, and then my daughter Dune was born, and then my Kinvara was born, and it was in that 10 years where things weren't going very well for me, and I hadn't really had time to sort of grieve
Process
for my
it.
sister.
Yeah.
And I was more devastated for my parents. The firstborn, Talsha, was a great script writer and worked in films, and she won a César in France for a comedy show that was a comedy film that was brilliant. And so she had a lot in common with my father, all that kind of stuff. And
the parents should never have to bury
no,
their child.
Yeah, it's hard enough for a sibling to lose someone, and I think part of you dies inside you. But for my parents, I think it was much harder.
I honestly can't imagine how that would feel.
Yeah, and horrible. So when I finally kind of headed off up the road with you, and there was some time later that I suddenly would start thinking a lot about my sister, and had a little cry in the helmet, and that kind of stuff. But finally, was given time to sort of think about things like that, and think about things that happened in school and in my life, and what was going on, and sort of and I think it was really nice. It was a nice thing. It was a nice thing to do. It was something I hadn't expected, and had never even thought about.
It's one of the features of riding that I really love now that I'm a little bit older, and like I've ride for different reasons now, and like those big trips that we do, like my parents do a trip through Vietnam with. Have you ever heard of Vietnam motorbike tours?
Yes, yeah, with the Urals.
They do.
There's one guy who does it in old Russian motorcycles.
No, so this one gets done on Lifens. They're like they're unreal. It's unbelievable, the trip, but you go on, it's 10 or 12 days, and like no music, no cardo, and just I've done it twice, and I've done the Cape York thing a handful of times, and it's just you go and it's just you and the bike, and you end up riding the bike by the sound that the engine makes. Like my engine vibrates and feels like this at 110 kilometers an hour, and you don't need to look at your speedo. You get into it's like a transcendental state, and you can process so many things that are going on in your life, and I think that's why people call it throttle therapy, because it really gives you time in a way that life doesn't give you that time.
And as well as that, when you're on a motorbike for a long time, or a 12-day trip, or whatever trip it is, that you become very dependent on that bike, because you got your tent, your food, your fuel. It's carrying you to where you want to go, and you become quite sensitive, I think, as you like you were to the sounds of the bike, because you got to nurse her along a little bit and make sure that it gets you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And you do become, it becomes part of you, I suppose. But all that stuff rushing past you, it's and what's great is with you, and people say, well, you go together for 4.5 months and going through, riding together, did you end up having, not having anything to say to each other, or at the end of the day? And we said, well, no, because you're both going along this piece of road, and you're both seeing it in such a different way.
Yeah.
And so when you stop for lunch or stop somewhere and you go, oh, did you see that waterfall as we came around that corner? And I was going, no, I didn't see that. I missed that. And I said, but what about that lake? Or what about the, and so you it's amazing how you see these things in different ways. And then, Ewan as well, he's an amazing guy, really. I mean, I've got so much to thank him for, really, because we were going to do it just the two of us and ride along, and I think he kind of realized I just didn't have the means to be able to do it, and so he was the one who said, look, let's try and get something together, go out and hunt something down so we can achieve this dream. And so now I think he really put a lot of effort into helping to try and make it happen, I think because of that trip that we did, it completely changed my life, and it completely brought me back into making television and film and documentary and all the stuff that I'd always really wanted to do. And
I was going to say you probably ended up getting to make better things than you ever would have.
Yeah, and the opportunity to get older, and you see an opportunity and you grasp it. Whereas I just dread to think how many, being young and dumb and drunk, how many opportunities I missed.
That's all part of it, though, eh?
Yeah, it's just part of life. And people always ask, do you have any regrets, in life? And I always say the only regret that I have in life is selling my XR 600R.
Great motorcycle.
Fucking great motorcycle.
Great motorcycle.
And that thing was, I think the guy had ridden it quite a lot, but I don't think he'd ever even dropped it. And it was, the rest of it just makes you the person you are,
Yeah, but
I still think about that bike.
Yeah.
I really do.
Though.
It's fucking ankle breaker as well.
Oh, mate. My dad had one of those.
Yeah.
So that's what one of the bikes that was in the shed, and I've just got core childhood memories of Dad like wheeling them on one of the beaches in Cooktown, They were fucking unreal, those things.
Yeah, it's a great bike. I remember being in the middle of Wales once. I was making a movie, just with a friend, one of these sort of small little independent things, and I'd stuck the XR into the camera truck to take it down to Wales so that I could knock around in it. Anyway, so we're getting, I don't know what it was, to the hotel, about 30 or 40 miles to the hotel. I said, "Come on, stop! I'll just get the bike out and I'll ride." Or just ride it on the road to the hotel, because all the old twisty roads. Anyway, so they all fucked off, and I got on the bike and I tried to kickstart this thing, and it whipped back at me, gave me that backlash, and my handlebar was just in the wrong place, and I hit my fucking knee, and I swear to God, I fell over. I was lying there, and I thought I'd broken my knee, and I couldn't move I really couldn't move it for 10 minutes. I was just lying there.
That's brutal.
And all I could imagine were those two red lights disappearing of the camera truck going past, and I finally managed to get up, but it was still so painful I couldn't kickstart it. So then I had to sort of push it a bit further along to get up a bit higher on this hill, to turn it around, to then sort of go back and anyway, finally started it. But oh man, that was lying in the middle of Wales, and I just kept hearing dueling banjos everywhere, and I think people were going to come out and get me. But yeah,
that's so funny. We used
good bike.
I had friends from school that always, like, we live probably 800 meters from the school, so we all rode bikes, and after school, all of the kids in the neighborhood would come to our place. And we would always go in the shed, put on one of Dad's work boots, and just try and start this fucking XR 650, and none of us had a chance. So.
No, he was, my bike. It was interesting, because if you walked up in front of it to get on the bike, it'd never start.
It's like an old horse.
Yeah, and then but sometimes if you just came up behind it and you jumped on and gave it a quick kick, it would start. So and then that's, I think, the thing about the older bikes, the kickstart bikes and 2-strokes and a big old 4-strokes and stuff like that. I've got a lovely 1959 Triumph Thunderbird, which I had a Baron Speed Shop chopped it up to this beautiful. Ewan had one of his done first, and then I had one done after him, and just beautiful. And that thing kicked beautifully. But you get to know how these little bikes. So with the XR, I would just go up behind it. It wouldn't see me, and I swear to God, I'm not sounding like a lunatic.
I believe it.
But I swear to God, it's true.
That's so, you got to park it in the right spot. Make sure it gets a little bit of sun through the window so it doesn't feel neglected.
Beautiful red, Honda red.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list of bikes to buy at some point. My dad's a big Honda guy.
Yeah,
he's got the Africa Twin. He's got the Rally. He's got literally everything.
Yeah. I'm not. I've never been kind of brand. I think people are less brand
agnostic these days.
But whereas back in the day, a mate of mine, we used to go and do all these track days together. He was Mr. Kawasaki through and through.
Yeah.
You could never. I said, come on, jump on my Suzuki.
I can't ride that. No, what a shit box.
Shit box. Fuck that.
Oh, that's my dad with Honda, pretty much. These days, I got everything. I want all the bikes.
It's got two wheels, and I don't care what it is. Yeah.
I got my pride and joy. There's a 1996 CR250.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
that was the one. That was like one of my first purchases.
Yeah.
Where I was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't be buying this, but fuck it, I'm doing it. The cash is there, let's go.
But I always say that, you can, if you buy one really nice car, you can buy 6 or 7 extraordinary
Really
bikes.
good bikes.
Yeah, extraordinary bikes.
Yeah. No, I saw this on Marketplace, and it was right at the start of COVID. And old mate just did not know what he had. And it was up there, $7,000. Thing was brand new, like all original, everything. So I had to go to 3 banks to get the cash out, because apparently you just can't have cash these days.
Yeah, or you're not allowed to draw out your own cash.
No, so I had to go to 3.
What do you mean? What am I want my own cash.
I got my ATM card swallowed the other day for fraud after I put in my PIN and started withdrawing the money, and it ate my card, and I'm just like, bro,
and it's a
this
disaster
is my
as well,
card.
especially when you're traveling.
Oh,
it's
worst.
a disaster, isn't it? When all that happens. Yeah.
But yeah, so I had to get three banks, went up, got this bike, and I'll never sell that thing. That's my XR650 that I will never.
Yeah,
I'll
never
sell.
go. Yeah, I know. I just keep an eye out for. I got the last thing I need is another bike, but I spend all my time just. Well, I sold 3 or 4 of them because I was just riding to get my bike MOT'd, and then riding it back, and then
not
riding
yeah.
for the rest of
yeah.
the year.
Yeah.
And the MOT guy was going, fucking hell, Charlie. He said, 3 miles this year? And so it was like, but that's like, and then so of course, and then you buy another one, and because you made room, and no matter how big your shed is, it's like that. You build it, you'll fill it, and it's like that Kevin Costner film, Field of Dreams, the Barn of Dreams.
yeah. So you guys planned this adventure, and Did you have any idea that it could be something that changed your life in the way that it did?
I think
or
there was
just given up at this point that would happen?
I think we were just riding, and we were just so excited to go, and it was much harder to get over the start line.
Can't even imagine.
And than we ever thought, and it was Etienne from the Dakar Rally, who he ran the Dakar Rally, and they do Tour de France, and they do all these big things, and I was stressing out, and it's a good thought. And he said, look, Charlie, he said you've got to the start line. He said you've won. He said every day after that is just a bonus, but all the work's been done, so just enjoy the ride. And someone else had said that to you and I when we were going off, and it was it takes a few days to get into it, and then once we got into it, then it was. And then you were just on the ride. And
you just
meeting
go on
all these people, and it was just the most extraordinary experiences we had. And riding through Mongolia was a good. I learned we learned very early to not ask someone on a camel or a horse for directions, because they would just take you over a mountain past on this fucking camel track. And we learned because we were up in the one top of this one place, and you and I were going, this is not where we're supposed to be. So if you are in Mongolia looking for directions, you just wait for a car or a truck. One will eventually come along, and you go. But everybody wants to help.
Yeah.
When you pass your test in Australia, in Mongolia, you have to be a proficient mechanic in order to be able to get your license, because it's so remote.
Yeah.
That you have to know how to do it, and they come along. You got Claudio. There was something went wrong with Claudio's bike, so we got him the little Red Devil, this little Russian bike that he used while he was going halfway through Mongolia, and it kept breaking down, and these locals would come and they'd just dive into that bike and just fix it off. And we used to travel with these little miniature whiskey bottles, to whiskey and gin and bottles, and we'd give them to people, and it was a real novelty. And you couldn't believe there was a tiny little bottle, and it was so we can't all that. It was, and I think we were looking for some kind of adventure on that, and I think we really
got it
in the end.
What do you think Ewan's reasons for doing it were? Because I guess in terms of careers and acting, he's probably like on that complete opposite end of the spectrum in a sense, you know. But you're kind of both going on the same trip, looking for the same thing, but at the complete opposite ends of your career.
Yeah, I mean, Ewan always talks about. He always talks often when he finishes a film, he'll wherever he is, he'll get a bike and he'll maybe spend 4 or 5 days, 6 days, riding home or whatever it is, because you sit on a film set and you're told when to wake up, when to arrive, what to wear, what to stand, what to eat, what to say. Yeah. It's all that all the time, and for a good few months at the time. And so I think he really likes that escapism on a motorbike. And for him, being on a motorbike is like all of us who ride motorbikes. It's a really important thing. You need to do, on a regular basis. And I think he loves that feeling of freedom. He loves camping. He loves wild camping. He loves not really having a plan. And it's nice to join in on that. And I think, I don't know, I can't speak for Ewan, but certainly for me, when I go and do stuff, I've always got to do stuff with someone else. I can't, I'm not very good by myself, and so I couldn't imagine going off for 4 months and riding around the world on a motorbike. I need someone there, and Ewan and I love riding together. We have this lovely kind of relationship where we can tell who's up and who's down, and you know instinctively when to leave them alone or to so it's just like great friends.
Yeah.
It's you know them.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the best friends are the ones where you actually don't have to fucking censor. I wish I knew where the sensor was for these lights. Sometimes the best friends are the ones that you don't have to say anything around.
Yeah, or that you can be silent without feeling. You're sitting on a long journey. You know how often you feel like you
should interject and you should fill the silence.
And fill the silence. Whereas with mates or friends or people that you know well, if you don't say anything for half an hour, it doesn't really matter.
Rattle them. Yeah.
And
4 months is just such a long time though. Like that's such an extreme commitment in terms of like, I've been on a movie set. I want a couple days on the motorcycle. 4.5 months. It's a life-changing journey.
Yeah, it was great. And I think the thing you realize in all of these things, going through Ukraine and and it's funny, you can't go through those countries at the moment anymore, and so you have to wait, because Ewan and I, we often spoke about there's always a thing people ask you, would you want to do it again? And I think it would be very cool to do it again, but going back the other way. So you go from New York to London. But politically these days, when we did Long Way Down, you couldn't do the West Coast, you could only do the East. Now there's lots of the top part of the East Coast of Africa you can't go across, so you wouldn't be able to do the route that we did. You'd have to go west. So politically, if you're doing one of these, a bigger journey, that's what you have to look at as well. But we met all sorts of people in Ukraine. We met Igor. We got stopped for speeding by this policeman but this radar gun, but they were accusing of speeding, but the radar gun just was stuck at 130 kilometers an hour. It didn't actually work.
Yeah.
And then he was asking us what we're doing, and then he goes, "Oh, listen, we'll come and stay at our house tonight, and I'll finish my shift." And we go anyway. So he finished his shift, and we ended up going to Igor's place. And we had this big, massive house, and they took us down. He was a merchant sailor who had a TV and fridge shop and was building the biggest house in town, and he had this mine that we went down, and we were going down to him. I hadn't told anyone where we were going. We were just going down this mine. We were halfway down this rickety old shitty mine, and Ewan turns to me, he says, "Charlie, did you tell anyone?" I said, "No." I said, "Did you?" "No." And and then we thought, "But this is the perfect place." Down the mine,
they're gone.
Take us gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then ended up at his house, and then all his friends turned up with guns everywhere. and then Igor comes down the stairs. He's got a Kalashnikov and a guitar, and in one hand he goes, "Yeah, make love, not war." And you're like, what's going on? So it was just, and every day you'd wake up in a tent or in a room, hotel room or whatever, wherever you slept, and you'd just sit there and we'd just laugh and just think, what's happening next?
Yeah.
And something just constantly happened. It was brilliant. It was great.
And I mean, I've never done a trip that long, but there is a flow that you get into on those trips. And then you just start clicking off the days. And so much of the real world just kind of washes off you. But you get moments though as well. You get highs and lows, and there's halfway through Mongolia we were kind of in a real low, and things were going really difficult. And you couldn't get across. It was just hard. It was all dirt roads. There was no signposts. It was just impossible to figure out where we were going. And just endless.
And endless, yeah. And Ulaanbaatar just seemed to be so far away. And then we thought, oh, well, maybe we'll go into Russia, and get back on the road and stuff like that. So you have that moment where, do you turn right or left? And do you stick to the path or whatever? But I think, and we're speaking to Russ and Dave, they were loosely following us a day or so behind. And then if a good story came on, they could catch up with another cameraman and help film, because it was often too much for you. And they would follow behind, but doing all the nice GVs and all the nice shots, so that Claudio didn't have to
do double duty.
So anyway, we did decide to go right and did carry on, and we did this UNICEF site in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, and we went to this orphanage, and this little girl had been abandoned in there, and I was chatting to her, and we all kind of fell in love with this little girl and how, this tragic story. And anyway, that evening, Ewan came to me and he said, "Charley, I think I'm going to adopt her." And then that started a 2-year process of trying to get her. And eventually got Jamyan as her name.
No way.
And she came to America and lived with Ewan and Ev, and she on Long Way Up Long Way Up in this last TV show, she's come out and travelled with us and since Ewan's daughter and my goddaughter, and we have her in our lives.
That's incredible.
And had we turned left instead of right, that wouldn't have happened. So I think the kind of the thought process of that story is stay on your path, and it may not be great at the time, but things happen.
That's beautiful.
No,
I never knew that.
Yeah, no, it's something we spoke about it in Long Way Up.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to share it because Ewan decided to talk about it because obviously it's his story. But
that's incredible. So how old is she now?
Jamyan is in her mid-20s. She wants to be a forensic investigator.
No way. That's a
cool,
crazy story. And
she's lovely. What a lovely, lovely girl.
And so she's Mongolian.
Mongolian, yeah, Jamyan.
Yeah. Man, that country has a crazy past.
Yeah, the whole of that, because it was one of the Russian, it was part of Mother Russia, and good vodka.
Really?
Drink a lot.
Yeah. But even back to Genghis Khan and
yeah.
Man,
Genghis Khan was the first person to use chemical warfare, and he used, because camels back in the day, and Mongolian camels, they carried some disease that the Mongolians were immune to, but nobody else was. And so when they came to these places where they'd have these sieges, they would starve them out of the town or something, and then they would chuck these camels overboard, and people would eat it, and they'd get this plague. And so he was a clever guy.
Yeah, it was savage, and just basically conquered half the world. Like invented paper money, invented the post. Like there was just so much. There's a crazy book Genghis Khan making in the modern world.
Yes,
and it is unreal. It's a place I'd love to go.
Oh, mate, you'd love it. I mean, there's nothing there, I mean, it's extraordinary. It's a difficult life to live, But what a place. Good fishing if you like it.
Yeah, right. What, in like lakes and shit?
Yeah, and rivers. And the Mongolians don't really eat fish, so
There's just heaps of them there.
heaps of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to fish a little bit. I'm not a big fisher. I see myself as as Brad Pitt did in that film where a river runs through it. I think the film was called, and he's in there and he's fly fishing in the middle of the river and stuff like that. And then someone videoed me the other day fly fishing, and all I'm doing is sort of slapping the water.
Did not look like that.
Nothing like it at all.
So
and you
funny.
just see it's like surfing. I'm an amazing surfer
Until
in
you
my
film
mind
it and watch it back.
And then it's just 2 or 3 of the closest times I've come to death has been surfing.
There's nothing more vulnerable than being held down by a big wave.
Brutal. I mean, it's much, much more dangerous than people think.
So fucking scary. I did a lot of surfing in California because growing up in Cairns, there's no waves. And so when I moved to California, I had friends from Sydney and we would surf. So I started there at 20 years old and just had some brutal days where I just had no business being out there and just getting dragged along the bottom, 3 waves down, just thinking,
scratches all down your back.
I'm going to die. This is it for me. This is where you just stop swimming and you just start floating. And you're like, well, fuck it.
Especially when you come up out of a big wave and you're in the bubbles, because there's no buoyancy in the bubble because it's all air.
Yeah.
And I came up and I was like, I'd lost my board. I was in Bali.
Yeah.
And we were all out there and they were helping me get onto the wave. It was great. And I was surfing, coming back. And then someone said, rogue wave. And I looked around and everyone had disappeared. And I was like, bang. And then lost my board. And then luckily, I was there, and then this girl popped up beside me, and she was struggling as well, and she had her surfboard.
So
and
you dragged her
and
down
I was thinking, I'm going to take her fucking board. And then I thought, I can't do that. And then I was struggling, and then this Australian guy came up beside me, gave me his board, tied it around my and I was, by this stage, I really was full of water, and I was not in a good shape, and he just pushed me to the thing, and anyway, I'm lying there on the beach, coughing up water and all this kind of stuff, and he comes out of the water looking like Daniel Craig.
You're right, mate.
Double and I said, oh, just thank you so much for, you really saved myself. And he goes, yeah, mate, no worries. And just took the board and fucked off. Absolutely no interest in this idiot that was lying on the beach.
Had no perspective that he just saved a life.
Yeah, I just looked like some beach whale. It was terrible.
That's so typical British tourist. Probably red as fuck too.
No, I was tanned. I've travelled.
That's our favourite thing. We were saying we had 2 good days here with weather. So Saturday and Sunday, beautiful days.
Yeah.
Best sunny days I've ever had in London. And I was saying to Rowan, so Friday we had our first day off in like 5 weeks, and we're just walking to a cafe, and it's not raining. So it's the first day that's not raining. There's like 3 strands of sun that are poking through the clouds. Windy as fuck. We're like leaning into the headwind. And Rones is like, it's actually not a bad day. And I'm like, stop it. You will not let these UK people change your perspective. Because this is fucked. This is completely dog shit weather. Nobody should say that this is good. But the fact that it wasn't raining.
And it's been raining a lot recently. I mean, I just did a whole lot of work to our lawn as house. It was all full of moss, and we scraped it up, went for the full hog to get it all back, more topsoil, all the kind of stuff. And we planted the seed, and then a few weeks ago we had 2 weeks of absolutely bone dry.
Oh, and it was hot too,
really hot, and it just burnt. Oh, anyway, we digress.
That's like the stereotype of like the British stereotype, and then they're here and they're like, oh, it's actually a good day, and it's just not. And then the other one is just the roasted red British tourist in Australia.
Yeah.
That's how I was picturing you on the beach in Bali.
Yeah. Well, actually there was a great photo of, there was a bunch of Scots walking along in Boston. They've been there at the moment and have just set Boston alight. That people have just absolutely fallen in love with the Scottish football tourists. I mean, it's been incredible, and all the bagpipes everywhere, and singing "Flower of Scotland" in the stadium. It was just amazing. Anyway, then someone shot this shot of these guys, and they were wearing kilts, and all three of them had taken their tops off, and they were absolutely. I mean, I've never seen anyone so burnt in their head and the arms and below the kilts, just absolutely, and white skins, and they were just marching down the road.
Yeah. That's how we think of British tourists. Basically, that's the look, especially in Cairns. It's so fucking hot up there. Yeah. And
in the
so
sun,
touristy.
the sun's very strong in Australia.
Yeah.
You've got that little hole in the ozone there.
Apparently, it's healing.
Apparently. Yeah.
Apparently, which would be nice. But yeah, it's so different, like basically everywhere else in the world. So you go through Mongolia. What was Russia like when you went through Russia?
We ended up going up to Lake Baikal, which is the largest freshwater lake in the world. And we went there and we met this shaman lady who was. You should have a look on the TV show. I mean, she was. I don't think she had ever been even close to a shaman at the time, and she was just doing this whole bullshit sort of thing. And you and I were just looking at each other, thinking, and then we headed up towards the Road of Bones, and that was something that it was a really big thing for us to get there, and we went up to Tinder, and we jumped on a train at one point, put the bikes on a mail cart on the train, and spent a night on the train just to jump forward a little bit, and then got to Tinder, and then started riding up these deep gravel roads with big trucks on them, and you'd have to use big articulated trucks, and you have to go right up to the corner of the truck to get out of the dust, so that you could see if something was coming, and then you'd have to go over this mound of rubble in the middle of the road, where all the trucks pushed it all in the middle. You'd have to go over that, and then you'd have to.
On big bikes.
On big 1150s. These are big adventure bikes. And then finally get in front of them, and kind of off you went. So it became this kind of huge kind of sort of real, PlayStation, driving game. It was and then camping in the middle of nowhere, and I mean it was absolutely amazing. And then going onto the Road of Bones and getting to Magadan, and the Road of Bones, I think I can't remember if I said before, but it was built by Gulag prisoners, and it was built to get to a mine, and it was a brutal place to go. And they built this road, and for every kilometre there are 4 people buried in the road, and that's why it's nicknamed the Road of Bones. And they would strip people down, and they would tie them against a tree in the summer, and they'd leave them there, and the mosquitoes, huge mosquitoes, would come and suck them dry. And so it was quite a place. So you felt quite humbled by being on this road, and you had to sleep on the road because on the side of the road was all permafrost. So in the summer it just became bog. So you can't get off the road, and all the bridges are gone. So we'd have to go down into the bridges, and then we got this big Russian truck to come with us at one point, because we realized that some of the rivers were too big to cross with the bikes, and some of the rivers you have the bikes on the truck, and then you get onto the bonnet of the truck. Then you go across, and we'd jump off onto the other side of the road, and we'd have to dig a ramp in order to get the truck to be able to get it back on the road. And so, I mean, all this stuff that was going on was just amazing. It was everything that we'd hoped would be, and it was all kind of working out. But it was amazing, and it was permanently light all the time. There was no darkness, and you could. That was my sort of first proper experience of it being light all day. 3 o'clock in the morning, you could sit and read a book in your tent. I mean, it's just amazing. But yeah, it was quite amazing. Really super interesting people along the way.
At any point, does the time scale start to blow out? Like, are you stressing on finishing, or was it not? You didn't have like hard restraints.
Well, we had the 4.5 month thing, and as we went through Canada and started getting into America, we started kind of running out of time. And I think it's a very common thing to happen. I think every traveller ends up that last week or so suddenly thinking, shit,
we got to get back.
We got to get back.
Yeah.
And then you forget how big America is. I've travelled across America a few times, and you get into the middle of America, and fucking hell, it's
nothing there.
Huge flat.
Yeah.
And we met this guy Carl in Mongolia, who was working there. I mean, it was all very suspicious what he did. He never really.
Yeah.
We had a nice evening with him, but he never really explained what he was actually doing there. You know,
Yeah.
And he kept talking that he was in the border or somewhere, and I was like, you know, and he gave us one of those coins, you know, that the military give to each other, and he said, look, you're going past where my sister lives. Will you deliver this coin? And so we did in the end. We ended up in this farm and met her, and we gave her the coin, and then her husband had this big farm with these fucking enormous articulated tractors, you know, the ones with the man got on there and drove them around. I'm a big tractor fan. I mean, I'm absolutely in love with tractors, you know, and so we had that bit, and then we headed to Orange County to meet Orange County choppers. Ewan was a massive fan of Orange County choppers, and we'd arranged to meet them. We spent the day with them, and then they got a whole load of their mates along, and we all rode in convoy into New York.
Crazy. What was that
Awesome.
feeling like?
Oh, it was fabulous. It was really, you know, you spent so long trying to get there, and so long, you know, not really believing that you would, you know. And then I remember with Ewan, and it was very emotional. You know, we ended up onto the bridge, and we were going across onto Manhattan Island, and you could see the skyline, and it was New York, you know. And I remember looking over at Ewan and thinking, you know, and he said he was thinking the same kind of thing. He was thinking, well, we just rode here from London, you know. We just got on a bike in London. We took we took the Eurotunnel, and a shitty little plane from Magadan to Anchorage, and rode the rest of the way. And it was a real moment. And then having our family there, and my two daughters and Ollie, and we hadn't seen for ages. It was lovely to see them all again.
How did it
was
change?
Nice.
How did
well,
it change you?
We met Ollie and my wife. We met our wives and my children the night before going into New York.
Yeah.
And Ewan and I had no idea that we were going to see them. And so we were stopping. And then Russ said, "Oh, come on, Charlie, let's just do a couple of interviews."
Yeah.
You know, we would do one every so often. Every 5 or 6 days, we'd sit and do a download for the edit.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there doing this download, and we're thinking, I don't want to do this. You know, it's the night before we're fucking finishing. I don't want to do it. Anyway, and then I heard this scream, and I looked round, and it was my little daughter, Kinvara. She was so shocked by having not seen me for so long.
Yeah.
She froze. You know, it was lovely. And then Dune came on, had a little cuddle, went back, shagged our brains out, you know, after 4.5 months of wanking, you know.
In a tent next to
In a
your
tent
mate.
next to your mate. And that's why we halfway through we kind of
Let's move
we had
these.
the tent divorce halfway through.
Oh, that's so good.
But no, it was lovely. And then we went to New York, and then we stayed. Someone had always suggested that when you've been away for a long time, it's better to all meet in a neutral place and spend 4 or 5 days, 6 days, just sort of
Figuring it out again.
figuring it out again and traveling, going. So we went up to Vermont and went and stayed with an old friend in Vermont and had a little road trip with the kids. So it was nice in order to get back, because if you flew straight back to your house and after 4.5 months and you're back to the normal everyday stuff of bills and you know and all that kind of stuff, it all gets a bit too much. So we did that, and when we did Long Way Down, the same thing. The kids came at the end, and we travelled back to a few places that I really liked on the way back, and so they could have a little bit of an experience of Africa and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was nice.
So how did that first trip change you as a person?
Well, I think it gave me it was a little bit of a financial change for me as well. So it wasn't so much of looking at which red bill to pay and how to, you know, I was going into petrol stations and putting it, you 20 quid in or in at a time. And, you know, so suddenly I don't think money buys you happiness. And I mean, I've not made a massive amount of money out of this, you know, but it's certainly helped. But I've realized that money doesn't buy you necessarily happiness, but it just buys you time.
Yeah.
And so if you can pay the bills on time, that gives you time and gives you something you don't have to think about. So that changed a little bit, and confidence. You know, going off and trying to get the Dakar Rally done, and you know, going and meeting people, you know, and convincing them that, you know, to believe in me, and you know, so that it made a lot of change on that, really, and it was really nice to go home and cook a meal yourself, and got all my mates round on a, you know, the first Sunday lunch that we had. We came out, because the thing is, when you travel a lot, you know, the phone stops ringing because all your friends and everybody just say, oh, he's away, oh, well, bother. And so that when you do come back, having been away a long time, you know, it's always a good way to get all your friends to come and have a big Sunday lunch and all, you know, get together, and you kind of sort of telling people that you're back and call.
So you kind of realized I guess maybe not realized, but maybe found a bit of extra joy in just the normal things, like showering and cooking and being around kids.
And being around my kids. I hadn't seen them for such a long time. And we'd done these 3 UNICEF projects along the way that were embedded in the TV show. Yeah. And you know, having that experience with Jamyan, and we did one in Ukraine for the Chernobyl, the kids of Chernobyl being affected by Chernobyl, and children being born with difficulties and deformities and stuff because of the nuclear fallout, and then we did, you know, we did another one, and so, you know, and all that kind of stuff was quite, and then I think your emotions are quite heightened when you travel anyway. Yeah. You know, I'm a bit of a crier anyway, but I think you're much more susceptible, because I think you're so far out of your comfort zone that you're vulnerable. You feel vulnerable, and you feel very close to Ewan, you know, because
that's kind of all
you're looking after each other. It's all you've got, you know, and it's a nice feeling. Ewan always jokes when we did Long Way Home, the last one we just did. He goes, you know, Charlie, these are like these 4 shows have been like being on honeymoon without the sex. Because you're going off on these travels, you know, doing all these lovely things, you know. But so and it's nice, and that feeling when you get on a bike and you jump on the bike and you pull off with Ewan to go and do another trip, and there's Ewan, I'm following him, and I know his shape, or I can see him in my mirror, and I know that shape as well, and there's something very comforting about getting out and, you know, doing it again.
I can't imagine the feeling of coming home after that long and that extreme. Like, it's a very, very extreme task that you undertook. And when you go through places like that Vietnam ride, for example, you see kids that have never seen a white person. Yeah. And there's just this look on their faces, and they're just so in awe of what they're seeing. And they live in a tiny little house on the side of a highway in the most remote part of Vietnam, and they have a toilet that's a hole in the ground, and they're just the most vibrant, happy, welcoming, I'm going to cook you food, you know, like it's just
inviting you in and giving you whatever they have. I mean, I remember when we were riding through Ethiopia, and we were doing, I think you kind of made the comment, but so we would get up early in the morning and we'd start riding, and then you go through this little village, and then all these kids were walking on the street with this beautiful white shirt or a blue shirt that was the school uniform, and they were all trimmed out nicely, you know, heading to school, and some of them, you know, they would split the school, so you'd only get 2 or 3 hours in the morning, and then they go home, and then some other kids would go in the afternoon, and you know, they're living in difficult conditions, and life is hard, but you know, the importance of their kid going to school and the effort that people make to make that happen is it's fantastic to see, and you realize that, you know, 99% of people are good. You realize that 99% of people just want what we all want, is, you know, a little bit of nicer place, a bit of food, you know, your kids to go to school, your kids to have a job, you know, those are the things you want. And that's the same all over the world. That's what everybody wants, you know, regardless of your situation, you know. It's
Yeah,
you strive to.
When you said before, money doesn't buy you happiness. Money solves your money problems.
Yeah.
And the rest
of it you have to do.
It's kind of on
I've met plenty of people who are stinking rich and
very
and
sad.
not very happy.
Yeah.
So it's not.
And then you see those people that are just so excited that their child's getting an education.
Yeah.
And it's just so relative.
And what they've given up to achieve that, because in Africa and places there's no free schools, so it's a thing, and it's nice working with UNICEF. It's nice to have done stuff with them, to know that the money you've raised has helped people in their way. Like that orphanage in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. It's nice.
Did you have any perspective when you guys rolled into New York that you'd done something very special?
No, I think it was special to us because we did it.
Yeah.
But maybe because I've grown up in the film industry with my father, who was always, was always very positive about making films. He always made it happen. He always made money. He always provided. He's a real grafter.
Yeah.
But he always said, look, you just don't know until people see it. It's you just don't know. And it is interesting now. I mean, people do talk. People come up and they say they're 6, 7 years old, and they said they live with their father. And lots of people come up and say, because of watching Ewan and you, we got on a bike and have gone off on new adventures. And it's lovely to hear. It's lovely that we could have been part of their journey. I think they would probably have found motorbikes anyway, but maybe we just sort of giddied it on a little bit. But I think but it's lovely, and because of that, we've been able to do other things, and we all of us do bits and pieces with lots of different people who are doing really interesting stuff, and we're going up to the ABR festival in a couple of weeks' time to meet a whole lot of like-minded people who are all adventure type of people, and so it's nice to see that we were part of that growth. But I think Ewan and I, when Long Way Round first came out, I think we were I think the timing was a good one. We people were just starting to not just want to be on a holiday. They wanted a bit of adventure. They wanted something.
Yes.
And I think we in some ways we were lucky that when it came out, people were starting to want more than just a beach holiday.
Yeah.
And plenty of people have done it before us. There's great people who've done amazing journeys before us, and there are people who are doing it right now, which is really exciting to think that there are people in all over the different continents around the world having their adventure, and there'll be plenty of people doing it again. But I think it's good to travel. It's good to experience, regardless of whatever way you do it. We happen to have a motorbike, and I think maybe part of that, riding that crest of a wave and the film, but really the documentary is really about two friends who are going off traveling and having ups and downs and adventures together, and I think lots of people can identify with that, so that anybody who's traveled or done a bit of camping or gone to Vietnam or Cambodia or somewhere a little bit dodgy, they can all relate to that regardless of how they got there.
It's funny though, like, so you're saying some people would have found the motorcycle no matter what. Well, I think I'd have to ask my parents, actually. They're going to be very stoked that you're doing this, by the way. But,
well, I want to send them my love. And I love his choice of motorcycles as well.
It's funny. They don't really listen. Well, my dad listens a bit, but like my mum, there's nothing that my mum would listen to on this, but she will 100% listen to this one. But so like I said, my dad rode my entire life. Bikes were always around. He never, ever traveled. Was just not a thing that he was into. And I would have to ask him, but I would be so sure that it was the long way around that got him to actually travel. Like my mum bought him this Vietnam motorbike tour thing as a gift for Christmas one year. And he went on it, and reluctant, I fucking hate soup. Like, what am I don't want to go to Vietnam.
My God, yeah.
Like, you imagine like an old Aussie bloke,
all that foreign food.
I fucking hate soup. What am I going to eat the whole time, And They-
he go in his little blue shorts?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
He's a true blue.
Oh, yeah. And so they went to Vietnam and it completely changed their life.
Yeah.
Like completely. They've now, I mean, they're in New York right now. You know, they're not riding on this trip, but like my dad went to New Zealand once to coach a football team for a weekend and then
went anywhere.
was never interested in traveling at all. And then he does this one trip to Vietnam, and I mean, he's probably done it 7 times. Like my mum helps with bookings for the company now.
Oh, wow,
like
bloody hell.
some of the friends, like I met my wife because I crashed on that trip. Like,
Wow.
So she was in Bali, staying in Bali,
Yeah.
and I was doing this trip with my parents. So they did it the first time themselves. We did it the second time. I fucking tucked the front, threw the thing away. Had 6 days left. And I was actually so broke at this time. I was doing the podcast, but it was...
Yeah, it was at the beginning.
Yeah, I had no money. And one of the guys, Leon, who is a great friend now, and he fucking paid for my trip to Bali to go and see the girl who's now my wife, you know. So it's like I just don't think that they would have done that, or they would have seen I don't know, like it's the way that it came across. Like you guys it was so real, and it was such an adventure, and it was so meaningful, and you made it look accessible in a way, I guess.
It is
you know?
really. I mean, if 2 fucking idiot actors can go off and do it, you know. I mean, the world. Yeah, you could easily do it. But it is, and it doesn't have to be 4 months. It doesn't have to be in Vietnam. You know, here in the UK, I went with a bunch of friends, and we went down to Bath with this, I don't know if...
Crazy city.
with this app called Kalimoto, and it chooses all the twisty little amazing roads.
Yeah.
And we went down there, spent the night in Bath, and then we went up through Wales and through the Brecon Beacons, and then back round through Herefordshire and back to the UK and back to London, and it was 2 nights on the road, and we just all A and B roads, and you can have this most amazing adventure just on your doorstep.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go. I totally get it if you want to go sort of south of the Sunshine Line, you know, and you know, so you can get a little bit more guaranteed some. I get it, but there is on your back door an amazing amount of places to see. So you don't have to do the Africa and South America, Vietnam, but they are nice places to go. And Vietnam and Thailand and Cambodia are just awesome places. And I'm talking about motorcycle fanatics.
Well, that's
every
the other
person,
thing. Yeah.
When you sit there, and I remember going to Vietnam and sitting in the city in the north. I can't remember what it's called now.
I can't remember any of the names of any of the places or where they are. I'm terrible. So bad when it comes to Vietnam.
Awful. But I remember taking a taxi from the airport, and I stopped at traffic lights, and within a minute, there were 2 cars, and must have been 200 motorcycles, all just piling around us. And I just thought, well, this is a city I could like.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, they love it, eh? We had
1.3 million motorcycles step-through bikes are sold a year just in Vietnam. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's almost something that you guys tapped into a little bit globally, you know. And it's one of the things, I mean, I think about it all the time with the podcast. Like, it's obviously so motors and two-wheel focused. And it's like, when you do travel to these places all over the world, you just realize that there's real moto fanatics everywhere. There was one road we were riding on, and it was one of the big kind of mountain ranges in just like who the fuck knows where, Vietnam. And these 2 kids, they heard us coming, and they lived on the side of the mountain. So they'd essentially just built a shack on the side of this mountain, and they hear us coming, and they get their scooters, no helmets, no shirt, no shoes, and they get out on these scooters, and one's a full Repsol Honda, like MotoGP livery. The other one's got monster stickers all over it, and they are just like tucking in, like putting the knee down, absolutely fucking smoking us on these scooters, and just loving it. And that translates, you know, and that's a love of motorcycles and racing, and they probably watch MotoGP every weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's huge that those things. And then as well as that, you know, when I'm riding in those places and you're wearing all the gear and it's fucking roasting hot, and then these people, I remember being in the jungle in northern Vietnam, and we were doing some filming there, and we were crossing these big rivers. It was great fun, and we were stuck on this on this thing, the four of us, and we're wearing all that riding
All the
gear,
gear.
all the gear, no idea.
Yeah.
And as we're trying to get up this hill, these three girls coming back from school, all on the same moped, just get with flip flops, and just rode right past us, and they were just all three of them were just looking as if to say, "What are you doing?" I was so embarrassed, and they just wandered off, and off they went. And
That's unbelievable.
And I just thought, God, I'd love to be in a pair of shorts and some flip flops.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to say a massive congratulations to the team at Fist Handwear, because starting right now, Fist is proud to be officially distributed in the US through a partnership with Parts Unlimited, bringing their gloves to riders all across the US. That means it is easier than ever to get your hands in a pair, no matter where you are. I've been banging on about how amazing Fist gloves are for the last 10 years, and now it's easier than ever for US riders to get a pair of their own. If you've heard me talk about them on the podcast before, but never tried a pair of your own, now there's no excuse. No matter what you ride, motocross, BMX, road, or even on the job, Fist has a glove designed for every condition, from blazing heat to icy cold. Apart from being the best performing gloves in the world, they also have a design for any flavor, from wild prints and bold graphics to collabs with some of the world's best athletes. And it doesn't just stop at gloves. Fist has moto socks, tees, hoodies, and hats, the full kit and caboodle. I've trusted Fist for over a decade, and I don't plan on changing. Do yourself a favor, join the Fist army today at fisthandwear.co, or head in to your local dealer and tell them that they need to start stocking Fist. So it comes out, and how successful is it off the rip?
It wasn't. It was a slow burner, really, when it kind of started. So it was on Sky One, and I think they played it like 26 times or something. But they kept playing. But each time they played it, it kind of sort of, it was one of those things that I think people found.
Yeah.
And which sometimes is not such a bad thing. And then people started to find it, and then it just started to get this momentum. We'd written a book as well, and the book did quite well. And then it quite quickly got this head of steam, and we were all running around, going to different motorcycle festivals and shows, and we had so it sort of gained this kind of thing, and then suddenly it just became something that everybody watched. I remember walking down the street, and people were stopping me and saying, "Oh, I saw that TV show, and I'm not into bikes, but I really like the show," and all that kind of stuff. And I was just thinking, fucking, where does this all come from?
Yeah, and it is beautiful, and especially knowing your story about your father and how successful that he was, and that you were, trying to do the movie thing, and it just.
And I'd had a taste of that success.
Yeah.
At one stage when I was, 19 years old, I'd had this. So, and then I was doing film. So I'd had that kind of success, and that's probably what made that little bit of that 10 years
even worse.
A little harder because I knew what it was. I knew what it was like, and I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
But my dyslexia had really, and then by making these kind of films, these TV shows and stuff, it's just all just talking shite, and
it's normal. It's very natural.
I'm just good at that.
Yeah,
talking shit. But yeah, and it kind of grew, and then Ewan and I did. I then did the Dakar Rally, and then Ewan came with Russ and Dave, because Russ produced it with me, and Dave and Ewan flew down to Senegal in the west coast of Africa, to Dakar, and to see me come in. And my wife and kids were there as well, and we were staying in it was all French. It's a very French place, and we're staying in the Novotel there. And Ewan said he said because it's quite a dodgy city, really, Dakar. And he said he went out to go and meet us, and he got into that they'd come down, the bags they'd lost the bags at the airport, they'd gone, there was all that kind of stuff. Got to the thing, he put all his stuff in the little safe in the hotel room, and thought, maybe I'll just take it with me. So he took his cash and other bits and pieces with him. he got out of the front of the hotel, and all these kids came running up behind him. And by the time they got into the taxi, everything had gone in these things. And he goes, "Fucking hell, Charlie!" It's just everything disappeared. And then and then there was all these big trucks. There was these motorcycles. There was Africa. Oh, there was Africa. There was all sorts of stuff that going. Yeah, one fucking job you had.
Literally.
I mean, literally one job. But you there's still a little bit of coffee in there left.
That's so good.
And I think all that kind of that smell of Africa,
just lit him back up again. Eh?
Yeah, and I think it kind of and we'd always, at the end of each trip that we've done together, we've always spoken about
what's next.
Because part of giving a trip up, part of you is desperate to get home. There's a part of you which doesn't want to give it up, and you just want to carry on, And if someone said, "Oh, Charlie got to New York, do you want to go back and do it again?" And go, "Yeah," But then you start talking about. Then
What's
you start
next?
talking about, what you fancied about what we're doing next, like Long Way Round. I talked a lot about the Dakar Rally, and we'd be riding along. We'd have our Dakar moments in the sand, and we always spoke about Africa. We always talk about, going through Africa, and I think when Ewan saw that, I remember we were sitting there, and he goes, "You know what? Fuck it, Charlie. Let's do Long Way Down." So we did Long Way Down. And then that was very successful as well, and
I'm assuming that's a much easier sell.
It wasn't, much easier sell, and we did that one with the BBC, with that one, and then we sold it around the world, and it was a big success.
Did the production stay the same?
Yeah, it was just the four of us. There was no Claudio was the same guy.
That's awesome.
We had we had Lucy Trujillo, who was our kind of producer.
Yeah.
That she still works with us now, 20-something years later. She still works on all the Long Way stuff. And then went down to Africa, and that was amazing. I'd always been in love with Africa. And I went there when I was a little kid with Dad during apartheid. We went to South Africa, and he played some of his movies there. Particularly one which was called Leo the Last, which was about all the Jamaicans coming to Notting Hill, but treated quite badly, and it was all about that. So he went down there, sort of slightly anti-apartheid and stuff. And I remember going there. I was 7, 8 years old, and going there, not understanding why there were white people in the front of the bus and black people in the back. I couldn't understand this whole apartheid thing. And I'd fallen in love with Africa then. I just thought, fuck, what a place, And so then we did Africa and went down through, Sudan and Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Malawi, and Botswana, Namibia, and then down into Cape Town, and it's just extraordinary part of the world, And I remember times when you're sitting on the road waiting for 60 elephants to cross the road, and you're going, come on,
Get on with it, boys.
Get on with it, and the animals everywhere, everywhere you went, there's animals. And in Ethiopia, they have these famous long-haired monkeys up in the mountains, and there's nowhere else in the world that I've traveled that there are wild animals like in Africa. We've killed them, all of them. They've all been killed off. But in Africa, you sit there and you get 60 elephants crossing the road. You get giraffes, zebras. You get kudu, eland. You get hippos. It just goes on and on. They're just all there. And so it's really, and you're camping, and you will tell you, we're lying there one time, and you can hear elephants walking around your tent and breaking branches, and you can hear them munching. They're so close, and
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and the people. There are so many people on living there. It's just it's extraordinary, the vibrance and the life.
Does it? So my family's Scottish. Like that's our background before we went to Australia, but I think we're probably like 5, 6 generation Australian before that, right? But you go to Scotland and you go up into the Highlands, and it just like has a bit of an impact on you
Yeah.
It just feels so old, and it feels like maybe a part of, that's where my kind of family come from. But I can imagine Africa would have a very visceral kind of feeling when you're standing in a place like that.
Yeah.
It's the cradle of life.
It is. Well, in Ethiopia, they say that's where man came from, or humans came from. But often when you say you're going to Africa, people just see Africa as one country. And it's a pretty fucking big continent. I mean, most of Europe fits in it.
Yeah.
And most of North America, the USA fits in it. I mean, it's a big place, and it's so diverse. So at the top of it, when you get Morocco and Tanzania, and you go across to Sudan and all those areas, it's very I would suppose Arabic, I suppose, and that kind of sort of culture, and then you head down towards Ethiopia and it all changes again, and Kenya and that sort of middle Africa where it's this sort of deep part of Africa and jungle and stuff like that. And then you start heading into South Africa and it becomes dry and arid again, and lots of lovely wine. And it's so diverse and culturally so completely different from top to bottom. I remember one of the things I always remember about riding through Africa, we were going down through Sudan and we were following the Nile, going down to get into Ethiopia, and it was so hot. I mean, it was unbelievably hot. And we were standing on the bikes, and when you're in a really hot at the top of a sauna where the heat really is, and you're breathing in, and it feels like the nostril hairs are burning. It feels like they're burning, and that's what it was like. And we were like pouring whole bottles of water onto our jackets to try and get that kind of air conditioning. Anyway, we pulled in and to this one little kind of shop, petrol station type thing, and just hanging, and then this woman with three or four children around her. She beckoned us over, and we came over, and she got us into the shade, and we sat down, and she had this huge watermelon. She opened up this watermelon, and she gave a couple of pieces to the kids, and then gave a big chunk to Claudio, Ewan, and I, and we devoured this watermelon, and then I remember just sort of, and she was sort of going, just relax. She was sort of saying, and I leant back against this lean-to shade and fell asleep for an hour, and woke up, and there was Ewan fast asleep and Claudio asleep, and we and then we sort of got back on the bikes and rode away, and we didn't really talk to each other. We just had this understanding, and what's amazing about when we went through Sudan. Sorry, it's my can. When we went through Sudan down into Ethiopia, and what makes it extraordinary is when you cross borders, and because normally we fly in, right, and you fly into an airport that looks like every other airport. And I think there's only one designer who's ever designed an airport, and then you go in, But when you travel across borders, like in Sudan, you come to Sudan and the Ethiopian border, and you ride across, and suddenly there's trees everywhere, and the color of the tarmac has in a line has changed color, and the way they paint the tarmac and put the paint on the tarmac, and the way the signposts are designed, the shops are different, the architecture, what people are wearing, how you fill your bike up with petrol is different, and it's all different, all just on this line that's on a map, and that line is more or less on the earth as well, and you go into this completely different place, and that's extraordinary. That overland traveling and overland borders it's so much less stressful.
Than the
so
airport
much
thing.
less stressful than an airport.
Did you have any problem along the way at any of the places that you went?
No, we had one. The only problem we had was going into Ukraine. It's the only time we've had to have a real problem getting in. We didn't have the right paperwork, and they held us back for a long time, and that was really that was just a big pain in the ass, and I remember it got so long that Ewan at one stage pitched his tent and went inside and had to sleep, and because we knew we were just going to be there for so long, but because you're there waiting, you always think, well, something might happen in the next 5 minutes, so you could never really get stuck into anything, thinking, well, we're going to be here for 4 hours. Okay,
Yeah.
We'll just be here for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But every time you think, anyway, we did finally get in, but that was really the only time, and that was because we,
It was just a bit of human
we had the
error.
wrong bit of paperwork, really, and but otherwise you go through, and I was always taught that when Ewan and I we did all this training at the beginning of Long Way and Long Way Down as well, and how to approach borders, and you approach, if you're on a motorbike, you want to start, you get your helmet up as quickly as possible, smile.
Yeah.
If they smoke, share cigarettes, share a joke, make just make light of it and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You puts everybody at ease, and off you go, and out to the other side you go.
I mean, the Africa thing, it sounds like an incredible adventure, but it also sounds quite scary these days.
I think politically it's scary. Not scary, but because Africa's not a dangerous place. I think there are certain parts where you can't go to because there are warlords living there. Like you wouldn't go to Ukraine now. You wouldn't go to Iran at the moment. You wouldn't go to those places because of politically. That's the way it is. And Africa's a bit like that. I mean, tens of thousands of people travel through Africa from top to bottom all the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you got to keep
you
in
never
mind,
you never really hear that story. There was a story in South Africa where this couple were on honeymoon there, and she was murdered, and it was brutal, and it went all around the thing, and it was damaging to Africa because it turned out that he had his wife bumped off.
That's right.
Yeah, and because he was, I think. Because he just didn't want to be married to her. I think
there was like some weird religious stuff.
Well, yeah, it was that. But I think partly it was because he liked someone else.
Yeah,
and
I think he was like in a church or something.
Yeah,
and,
or
like, was
something
married
like that,
in the church, and
it was a forced marriage.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
it gave Africa this bad look.
This bad look, but of course you can get robbed. You can get you can get your wallet taken, your phone. But I mean, fuck, you walk around London now, and
I was gonna say,
everything's snatched. You can't take anything around with you in London anymore. So it's not that bad. And I've travelled there for 20 years and longer, and have never had any problems whatsoever.
I got a friend who. He's been he's an Aussie guy, and he's been traveling in and out of the Ukraine a bunch of times, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy, he's one of the most famous jiu-jitsu dudes in the world, and he was doing these seminars all through Europe and basically collecting money, cash, at these seminars, and then he would fucking go to Ukraine, go to the front line, because a bunch of these dudes that are in the front line, they do mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu, and they train. So they'd kind of follow this guy as this fucking huge star in jiu-jitsu. He takes all of the money that he raises in the seminar and goes there, gives it to them, and they're the dudes that are buying drones and fucking sending them across. Insane.
And they've become, the Ukrainians have become the leaders in the world
of this drone
technology. One guy was saying to me that he was saying this guy, can't mention his name, but he was saying that he was out there, and he was saying that these guys on the front line, they'll fly these drones with a fiber optic cable attached to the drone, and it'll go out for a kilometer or whatever it is with this fiber optic attached to the drone, and he's operating it. And I mean the technology, I don't know, scary.
It is crazy once AI starts getting plugged into them.
Yeah.
Well, apparently I saw a headline the other day that there was the first confirmed kill with an AI drone that basically just flew in.
Targeting.
Used and just, it's insane. But the whole borders thing, it's so sad in a way, the way that the world is drawn up, the way that it is, and I was incredibly privileged to grow up in Australia the way that I did. But it wasn't until I met my wife, and the entire time that we've been together has just been an absolute fuck around, just literally because of her passport. And she hasn't been in Russia for years, forever.
I know. And that's where it comes down to the point where you're saying that, 9 times 10 people are really nice. It's just the governments.
Yeah.
And I went through Iran a number of years ago now. I was doing a TV show called By Any Means, where I went from London to Sydney buy any bikes, cars, trucks,
Yep,
boats,
yep.
elephants, tuk-tuks, you name it. And we went through Iran, and it was just a beautiful, magical place, and really highly educated people, funny. Most people spoke English. Tehran is a really kind of modern
Yep.
world with an underground system, but they have this Ayatollah, this
Just an insane group of people.
insane group of people that have got a hold. Just a little minority of people have got a hold of this whole country, and you know, none of the 90% of people who live there want it. You know, none of them want it, but there's just seems to be no way. So it's these countries are gorgeous, but just ruled by fucking idiots.
Yeah,
you know?
and and then the people, it's the people that suffer.
Yeah.
You know, like
Always.
my wife and I were in Bali together when the war broke out. So like day one, we're living at a mate's villa in Bali. She's playing music on Spotify and it just stops.
Oh,
And we're like, oh, what happened to the music? And she walked up, your account has been deleted.
deleted. Wow.
Goes to the bank to get money.
Nothing.
There's nothing there anymore. Your cards don't work. So if I wasn't there with her, she'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Like literally had no way of accessing money. The Spotify account stopped, PayPal, all of the things just delete.
Stopped.
From
But-
someone that just has absolutely nothing to do with it. You know?
Yeah, and I was at a talk a little while ago in our local area. I live in the Surrey Hills, and local area there's a little men's therapy group called the men's therapy group. So we
Yeah.
all meet once a month. At
That's
the pub.
awesome.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
there's no real therapy that goes on. It's all just an excuse to meet up. But we had the annual kind of dinner, and it's really nice, really nice bunch of people, really
How
interesting.
many of you
people.
guys are in it?
It can go up to about 25, 30 people. But sometimes, you know, you'll meet at the pub and there's two people there. It's
Yeah.
just whatever happens. But just nice people. And they're all locals. And, you know, it's a great little pond of people that when you need something, you know, a lawyer or someone, there's always someone who knows someone. And anyway, we got this guy, this ex-brigadier guy came in to talk about the Ukrainian war. And this is a few months ago now. And he was saying that on the Russian side, they have something like 1.4 million Russians have been killed in the Ukrainian war. And then they say that number might be
Even more.
even more. And you just think, you know, wow.
Yeah.
You know, how can anyone justify that kind of killing?
And it's just a generation of young men lost.
Yeah, lost on.
And we're not having kids the way that we used to. Like,
Well, there was like years ago. I went to a Spear Cup in South Africa. There was a big between the Boers and the British. It was I think Britain's biggest loss, and they were coming up this hill, and you know the Boers, the locals were much more prepared than the English. Anyway, there was this big, terrible thing. Loads of people died, but during that war there were two people who in history have made a difference in the world. And one was, he was a stretcher bearer, and it was Gandhi was a stretcher bearer there. And there was Churchill. He was on the horse brigade, and he was a messenger or something at the time. Now those two weren't killed in that battle, but and they went on to do incredible things. But you imagine what those other 200, 300 people who were there.
yeah. What's their potential?
What could they have done?
Yeah.
You know, how could they have changed the world? There were two people there who changed the world. You know, and then you think, God, what a loss! What a shame that all those people who could have been something. You know,
And I mean, to bring it back to traveling, I think that's the level of humanity and compassion that you get when you do go abroad, you know, because so much of the conflict in the world comes from quite privileged people, you know, and people that have safety and people that have good economies. And, you know, it's like they're kind of the decision makers. And it's like when they're also the people that haven't been to Sudan and haven't crossed the border.
And I'm
you
sure
know
lots
what I
of
mean?
these people are, you know, who are these dictators are probably living in in nice places and in other parts of the world, and making people do things for them. But you know, and I think when you travel around the world, I think it's important. I think I always say to people that, you know, it's the spice of life, and you know, get out there and really do have a look around, because it is, and it's you know, it's probably, you know, half the price to go on holiday when you are abroad in other places. You're not paying your European prices, you know. And there are shops around the world, and there are beautiful hotels. I mean, in Africa, people, my God, accommodation, lodges, and hotels, and all that kind of stuff that they build in Africa, in Kenya, and Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania, and Malawi, and all these places, and Namibia. I mean, just stunning properties that you can go and stay, and, you know, really reasonable priced. It's really reasonable compared to here.
Yeah, okay.
It's definitely cost efficient.
Yeah.
To go on holiday in South Africa and
I went to South Africa last year for the Supercross, but I was only there for a few days. But it was just beautiful.
Yeah,
Cape Town's just
a Table Mountain.
What a trip!
Yeah.
It's right there.
But it must be nice for you to be traveling around the world and being able to get to do all these things. You know, make a living out of your passion. You know.
Yeah. Well. Definitely.
Must be nice.
I do feel lucky. I probably don't. Traveling's different when you're travelling for events and you're at races, and I feel like I've seen a lot of hotels, I've seen a lot of airports cities. And, you know, but not really travelled in all of them, you know. But I guess it does put a good to-do list of places that you go to and that you would go
or
back
later,
to, you know?
or as you move on a little bit, you know, just take a couple of days before and a couple of days after, you know.
Well, I think I'm kind of getting to that, not to date myself, but I think I'm kind of getting to the age as well where the kind of trips that you guys have done, like, they are very appealing. Like when I grew up as just a motocross racer, and my trips would be around going to races, you know, you would see a lot of, like, we've driven from from Brisbane to Perth, and driven across the Nullarbor. But we're going to race, and then you race, and then you come home. But as I'm getting a little bit older, Tenere 700's a pretty epic little motorcycle to get out there and adventure on, you know.
Well, that's what I like to do when I go to do the motorcycle tour, because, you know, a lot of Australians come on our motorcycle tour. Yeah. Because something like 80% of Australians have never been to Tasmania. And they all think, you know, Tasmanians have two heads, and, you know, they're all sheep shaggers, and they, you know, they have a relationship with their brothers and sisters, and
which they do, but that's fine.
That's fine.
Who am I to judge?
But it's just a stunning place.
Isn't it unbelievable?
Yeah, really beautiful. And got the Mona Gallery in Hobart now, which is just a blow your mind.
I've never been there, but I definitely want to go.
Well, come along next time.
When is it?
Next time is February. We're going to do a tour in February.
I could probably do that. So what do you do? What's the tour?
Well, it's a road tour, and we do it with a company called Compass Expeditions. They're a big Australian tour company. They host us. They host my tour, and then we take the ferry from Melbourne to overnight into Tasmania, do a loop of Tasmania, staying in all these beautiful places. Go into Hobart, go down to Port Arthur and have a look around there, and the riding is just there's a road from Hobart to Strahan, and the most westerly point of Tasmania, and it's 230 odd kilometers, and it just gets twistier and twistier as you go. So it starts off being kind of twisted, then it just becomes this incredible road, and then up through Melbourne, up through Brighton, then into Jindabyne, and up through all the snowy mountains, I suppose it would be, with you know, Man from Snowy River, all those kind of lovely poems and stuff like that. And it just go. And then we finish off in Sydney, and 10-day tour is lovely.
Yeah, that is.
Come along.
What bikes do you ride?
Whatever. A lot of people rent. If they're coming over from overseas, so a lot of people come from all over the world to come and ride, and then I would say half are Australian, and so they bring their bikes, and then we just rent whatever's available down there.
What do you like to ride on that kind of trip?
That kind of trip, I like to ride kind of an adventure bike. So at the moment,
but with road tyres?
Yeah, no, well, with the dual tyres.
Okay.
Because there's always the little bit of, you know, something somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, you can nip off to. It's sold, that particular route is sold as a tarmac road. But whereas the one I do in Africa, from Cape Town to Victoria Falls, is all off-road. And again, I do a tour in Africa because it gives me an excuse to go back as well. So it's all planned.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And at the moment, I'm just loving the Ducati Desert X at the moment.
Okay.
It's just, I think it's the best adventure bike in the last 12 years, I think. Just an extraordinary piece of gear.
I've never got to ride one.
Try it. They've got a new one out now as well. Which
Okay.
is like,
Have you ridden? You would have ridden the Multistrada.
yeah, Multistrada, love that. Multistrada Rally is really nice.
So that's what when you were saying you ride around and it's mostly tarmac. I'm like,
Multistrada Rally would be good because then you just got that little possibility.
Fuck, those bikes are fast. I remember. So I had me and my dad went
And
on
confidence that you have in it. It's so.
It's all there.
It's so, but everything when you go around the corners, it's, you know, the electronics are so simple to easy that they don't interrupt your riding.
Yeah.
They just enhance your. I'm sure
Adaptive
they've saved your
cruise
life.
control.
God knows how many fucking times.
How good is adaptive cruise
yeah.
control? Fuck me. Give me that
never
all
go
day.
back.
Yeah, give me that all day, every day.
I have it in my car as well, and have it in my van. I bought a Volkswagen Transporter back in 2020, and it had adaptive cruise control on it, and just the greatest invention of all time.
Oh, and to have that on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
God. We
And it tells you when cars are coming behind as well.
Yeah.
It's got radar in the back as well.
Beautiful bit of kit. But we
And if you're on a private road, it wheelies really nicely on a
never-
private road. Obviously,
with
never do
closed
that on
course
public
and-
roads. And,
yeah, once it's closed and the police are there and you can do a
you-
wheelie, then
yeah.
it's great.
But otherwise, I would very much condemn it.
I used to do a thing I was like a Ducati ambassador in Australia for a couple of years, and I got lucky I got a new bike every few months. There's like a content bike, and I got one of those Multistradas. And Dad, he had his Africa Twin, and we just went there's a bunch of good riding around the Gold Coast where we live, and he dropped me off to pick up the bike, and then I went onto the highway and was doing like 230 k's an hour. And
Frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, just getting onto the highway, and Dad's like, "How's the bike?" And I was like, "I just did 230 k's on a fucking couch."
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
unbelievable because you're just so comfortable sitting on this thing.
It's so beautiful, and they're beautiful, and they
Sounds amazing.
Sounds amazing. And the electronics, you know, since they, because I had an 888 together. I used to do track days on that thing, and every so often when you turned left, when you're on a left hand corner, it would cut out. Because I could never find the fucking problem.
Did you walk in front of it before you rode it? Or?
Yeah, well, I tried everything, and
put some coins
and
in
so
your
the
pocket.
electronics were just not that great then. But now, you know, since they've been bought by Volkswagen Audi Group, and I think out of all of the bikes, it's so easy to maneuver through the electronics of this bike, and you can set them up, and it has rally mode and it has enduro mode, and so you can go deep into all of the modes. And so one mode I sort of set up for very loose gravel, so it has a little bit of traction control, has a little bit of ABS and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the other one you can set it with everything turned off, so you can decide where you're going. You have these very simple options. You know, you could be banging down the road and you see that dirt road come up in a couple of clicks and you're gone again. You know, it's just wonderful.
You make me want to ride.
Oh, just that Ducati Desert X is just, I dream about it all the time.
Have you got one yourself?
Yeah. I actually, can you believe I actually bought one?
Really?
I
With your own
bought
money?
a bike with my own money. Yeah.
That's pretty sick. That's honestly a cool feeling though.
Yeah, I know, it's lovely.
Especially when you
love it,
kind
and
of
I
get it for free and then you're like, you know what, fuck it.
Yeah,
I want this one.
I want this one,
Yeah.
and keeper. You know, it's definitely keeper. But I love that. Yeah.
What's the most riding you do these days? What's your schedule with riding? You a once a week guy? Do you need to do a bunch of riding? Do you not get to ride enough?
No, most days I ride, and
Most days?
Yeah, most days. There'll be maybe the odd week that disappears because the weather's shit. You know, I'm not that.
Yeah.
You know, I've done plenty of hardcore riding. I don't need to prove to myself anymore. But yeah, most of the time, where I live, just outside London, is in the Surrey Hills, and if you go from the Surrey Hills and you go all the way down towards Brighton, you go through to where Goodwood is and Petworth and,
Yep.
and all the South Downs and that all bleeds off towards Bristol and then down to Cornwall. So it's an incredible riding around and an amazing downhill mountain biking very close to where I live.
Right.
So there's a place called Peaslake, which is one of the better downhill mountain bike places in southern Britain, and I can ride out of my driveway and within 5 minutes on a downhill mountain bike.
So you're doing a lot of mountain biking as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of mountain biking. Yeah, and we go out every Wednesday night with a bunch of mates, and in the summer and winter. And in winter we put these big torches on and do the same runs at night. That fucking shits you up. It's like as you go down on these bumps and stuff, the
lights moving.
Well, it creates this in between the bumps. It creates this black pool of light, which looks like water, and you have no idea what's in it. So I'm always quite near the back when it's night, so that
self-preservation
I can
kicks in.
yeah. I mean, and I'm quite broken. I've had a lot of injuries, and so I do need to. I find it, like a lot of us will get on the bike and that mist comes down and the competitive comes out. I've got to try and
that's a
manage
whole
that.
That's a whole thing. Like I was saying before, when you film a lot, and sometimes unfortunately, most of my riding I'm on camera.
Yeah.
And we're doing something for a sponsor or we're doing something for a video, and it gets so fucking frustrating because you've got to keep yourself in a box, but then you also want to look good for the camera. And over the last 7 or 8 years, I've had to just delete the ego when I ride, and I have to stay healthy and I have to just finish. I can't be a hero. I can't care how I look. You have to really rein it in.
Yeah, I do, you do. And then, I mean,
quite difficult.
It's difficult.
It's a process.
But then I've got a good, nice little bunch of mates with Ewan and Russ, with Roy and Craig and Richard and Paul. And there's this sort of 5 or 6 core guys who we always, at least once a month or so we'll go off for a night somewhere,
That's
or
awesome.
once a year we always try to go to Spain or Italy or somewhere to have 3 or 4 nights just riding bikes, and so that, and it's nice to go and travel for 3 or 4 days with no camera, with no agenda, and just ride, and I mean, it sounds silly, and that and I am very grateful for my life to make films and stuff like that, but like all of us, sometimes it's just nice to get away on holiday, and just do what you love doing, but without it being work. But it is good fun, and it's just, and we have these little centers, so we all talk to each other throughout the whole day. Yeah, it's just the crap and the bollocks you talk is just wonderful.
We
and that crack of a bit. Sorry, that crack of, so you get. We always try to get to the hotel about 4 o'clock. I don't want to kill it with too many miles, and then you get off the bike and you helmet on, you sit down, have
first beer,
glass of beer, and it's lovely, and then have a few more beers and then get drunk and whatever, and I never want to give that up. That's just so much fun when you're out with some mates. It's just such a nice feeling.
It's living. That is living. Yeah, we did. I think it was the Wednesday of the TT. I think I saw you the Friday there. Was it? Yeah. So the Wednesday, we went out with David Knight. He took us for a we did 53 miles of hard enduro through the Isle of Man. And
Good rider, isn't he?
Oh, unbelievable.
That guy is so...
Just a
above.
Unit of a man.
Yeah.
And so he took us out, and Ricky Carmichael was with us, and we had like a really, really fun crew, a couple of the boys from Monster, and we all had the Cardos on, and fucking hell, it was the funniest shit of all. You wish you could post that.
Or
that
audio.
Not.
Oh no, I'm not sure I would. But no, but with I'm talking about Niter. I was training for the Dakar Rally and doing enduros when he was racing in enduros, and you get these guys would come around, and really good riders we come around and in the specials, we'd all ride round and stop and watch him come over different sections because his approach to an obstacle, and everybody, there was one stone wall that we had to go over, and everybody was doing it and just fucking it up completely. And he turned up and he spun round the other way and did this maneuver and just hopped over it, and completely different to everybody else. And it was just, and we'd all do that, and you all just sort of follow him around. And I mean, he's unbelievable. His skill is I think he's certainly probably the greatest enduro rider.
He's one of the greats.
One of the greats of all time, for sure.
I just couldn't believe how well, and I mean, it makes sense, but how well he knew the island.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's his backyard.
Unbelievable. And we kind of had our pace going, and we had a kind of a varied group of riders, so you sort of trying to ride within the group. But then every now and again, someone would get lost, or they'd go off on the wrong adventure, and you just hear Nida would take off, da, 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 and you're like, Jesus, bro, where the speed and the confidence, and it was fucking pissing down rain, sideways wind blowing across, and he just gone. Sheep are bloody parting, and you're just like, man, you're unbelievable.
And that's that whole thing about being bike fit.
Yeah.
That people talk about, and I remember when I was training for the Dakar Rally, then people said, Charlie, you've got to be bike fit. And I go, I am fit. And they go, no.
No, it's just
bike
different.
fit.
Yeah.
And what bike fit really means is you just time on a bike.
Yeah.
And when I first started doing the enduros, I was beat by the end of the even just the Hare and Hound.
Yeah.
Even after a 3-hour race, I was absolutely gone. And but by the time I got to getting close to going to the Dakar Rally, I could do a 2-day or 3-day, and I wasn't tired. I was physically, I was tired physically because you've been doing it, but mentally and physically, I could just sit on that bike all day long because you were so used to riding it, you weren't using energy, unnecessary energy in the same way. You weren't holding on for terrified moments of when you first started out. So and Naito is that guy, and he can do that just that little bit better than everybody else.
Well, and he was
the Marquez's and the Valentinos and it always goes on. There's always someone who just has that, and I think a lot of it is processing information.
I completely agree.
And I think that there are some people like Valentino or Naito or whoever it is, it just has that ability to take in.
It just comes at them slower.
That little bit faster, yeah. And if you look at the great tennis player Federer, I don't know if anyone's ever watched him, but if you watch him, he seems to always be in the right place for the return ball, and he's always just relax hitting that thing. So all those guys have that ability to process information just that bit faster than everyone else.
Is that something that you're born with, or is that a developed skill?
I think I don't know, because it certainly doesn't happen to me. But I can give it to the rest of them. I can keep up to a point, Yeah. But then but I think probably I think part of it is how much time you spend on the bike. Maybe from being on a bike from a very young age, maybe that.
Yeah.
But I probably your brain has a better processor than the other person, probably.
Have you ever really thought about hydration? I bet you haven't, but I have, and that's why I am on a mission to hydrate action sports with my new company, Sota Fuel. You can look at any study. Hydration is one of the key factors in human performance. And action sports is about as high performance as it gets, and there are extreme consequences to not being locked in. Find out more about how important hydration is for you, and if you're leaving performance on the table, by heading to sotafuel.com. Do you follow much of the motocross and supercross world these days?
Not so much these days. I used to follow it a lot, but then I just I got
Life.
I got life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch Jett Lawrence ride.
Yeah.
You talk about Roger Federer. This kid, he's 23, 22, 23 from Australia, and is just like his brother, his older brother. So Jett's number 1 in the world, and his older brother's number 2 in the world. And they're 2 kids from the Sunshine Coast of Australia.
Coast, right. God, the older brother must be really pissed off.
But he's so unbelievable as well. Like just
I've heard about and people. People talk about how this effortlessness.
Yeah.
And I've seen clips of him doing whoops and how his body position seems to be, that relaxed.
Yeah.
I was always told when I was training, when you're riding, you have to be able to play the piano when you're riding, because you shouldn't grip.
Yeah.
You obviously have to hold on clearly, but it should be. And he, from what I've seen, he's got that tremendously relaxed, effortless.
And it's just to be an outlier amongst the outliers.
Yeah.
That to me, and that's what you're talking about with the Marquezes and the Niders, and it's like to even make it to the point where we're talking about you as a motorcycle racer, you're an outlier amongst men like mere mortals like yourself and I, and then to be the outlier amongst those people,
guys,
his brother has an awesome quote. It's like, when the helmet goes on, God's pulling the strings. With Jett, and you just look at those people, and I'm like, man, you have a special brain. Like you have a brain that processes information so much better and so much more effortlessly than me. And for guys like us, there's just
I
so
like
much.
to think we're better at other things than they are, that they wouldn't be able to do, I would hope.
Like having a podcast,
but there's, but throughout the whole of history, there's people like that. There's Graham Hill, he was a great Formula One driver, and then his son, Damon Hill, became world champion as well. And you got, you got all these kind of people that come through. Colin McRae, who was one of the great rally drivers of all time, and so there's all these people that come around, and they've got that touch, and it would be nice. And we all, when I go around, I still do loads of track days on
you still do?
On sports bikes. I still love it. And I sit there sometimes, thinking I'm Valley or, or,
putting a leg out.
Yeah, exactly. And then into the gravel again. But it's those guys, and then the injuries, they come back from injuries, and, and the difference between like football, and these guys get
I had this
10
conversation,
taps and they're rolling on the ground, and they're doing all these terrible sort of things, and it's and then you cut to Fabio Quartararo, who races actually for Monster with the Yamaha, and there's a one of the guys who's just invested in the Tech 3 team, who's come from Formula One.
Yeah, Gunther.
And they, they see that MotoGP is they're becoming franchises, and not just motorcycle race teams that race. And but they were saying the stories that aren't told about MotoGP is, you got Fabio, who's gone. He's in free practice before qualifying, and he goes around. He comes off, big fucking crash, dislocates his shoulder, and he's lying on the gravel, and there's a doctor guy there, and pointing at his thing, and the guy punches his shoulder and puts his shoulder back in. He gets up, gets on the scooter, goes out, qualifies fourth. Having an hour or so before his, and no fuss. No one talks about it. The teams don't go,
no, it's just normal.
That guy is just normal.
Yeah.
And that story happens all the time.
Yeah.
And every time someone falls off, and you fall off just slightly the wrong way. And Marc Marquez last year won the world championship. The next race, the very next weekend out for the season, and had that, had he not quite done the racing that the win that he had on that weekend, and it moved on to the following weekend, he would have lost the championship having been the lead
Out
the
in
whole
front
way.
by-
So it's difficult in Formula One, but it's super difficult on
Unbelievably difficult.
to do it, on a motorcycle.
Have you ever done the 2-up lap with one of those guys?
Yeah. I did it with Randy
Yeah.
on a Ducati, and then I did it with one of the more terrifying ones. I did it with Ron Haslam.
Yeah.
Rocket Ron, they think he used to race with Barry Sheen and all that kind of crowd, and we went round Donington with him, but no handlebars to hold on to or anything like that. So it's just one arm around his waist and one arm on the petrol tank, and he said I'll do a couple of laps, and we did 10.
That is
and
brutal.
we'd come into to Melbourne hairpin loop, and he'd put the brakes on, and I'd slide up his back, and then just crash down again, and then off we go. But the thing was, on the MotoGP bike with Randy, he said, Charlie, you'll be fine with the speed and all that kind of stuff. He said it's the late braking and the corner speed that you'll freak out on. And fuck me, he was right. I mean, it was, you're just thinking, brake, and he's going in. And there's a lovely photo I've got of Randy and I, and it was just before the MotoGP, and he's going around the corner, and you can hear the crowd because they love him, and it was in Valencia, and they hear this noise, and you got it, and this photo, and this, we're both 2-up, leant right over, and the back wheel is smoking, going around the corner.
That's unbelievable.
And it was like, what an experience. Have you've done the lap?
I've done it with Jack. With Jack Miller.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, Jack.
He is the best,
I like
isn't
him.
he? But so we grew up racing with him. Like we're all from the same area.
Yeah.
And I get on the bike and he goes, I'm fully prepared to crash. And I was like, fuck. I was already shitting myself as it was. But same deal. It was at the end of, it was when I was doing the stuff with Ducati at home before I moved to America. And he did all the responsible rides with all of the paying people and all of the whoever was doing it.
The celebrities or whatever it is.
And then they were like, righto, Jase, you're up. And Jack's like, we can fucking crash this thing. This is the last one of the weekend. Like, we're good. We're going to send it. And yeah, it was unbelievable. It was life-changing in what I do.
Yeah.
Because I talk about
it's an insight,
motorcycles
isn't it,
for a living. Yeah. And I mean, I've ridden Phillip Island. I've never done that.
No.
Like, I'm never doing that. It blew my mind of like, how do you even figure out that that's a real thing that's possible?
And how they get to that point as well, And I always like to think it's because they just spend all their days on the motorcycle. And if I spent that much time, I'd be that good. But no, they do, and it's nice to see. And I'm a big fan of MotoGP, and I love that. I love circuit racing. Maybe that's because after I did sort of motocross and stuff and enduro when I was a kid, I moved to London and then just started watching circuit racing and then kind of had that. It's the only time I've ever had a feeling that actually, it was the only time I saw somebody do some kind of job and think I should have done that, and I've never thought that before.
And it was about being a racer.
And it was watching. It was MotoGP going round when they still raced at Donington Park.
Yeah.
And I just thought, fuck.
Should have been me.
Yeah, it should have been me. And I know it. I mean, we all say that.
Yeah.
There's loads of us who say it. But I'll tell you one story quickly about talking about MotoGP and MotoGP riders. Barry Sheen.
Yeah. Legend.
And he was a legend, and he was quite the womanizer and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so years.
He's a good-looking young fella.
Yeah, he was a great-looking guy. I mean, I fancied the pants off him. So my wife at the time, this is like 40 years ago. At the time, she was. We were late into this restaurant in Fulham, and for lunch, and we came in. There was a whole long table of friends all there, and so we sat at the end of this long table, and in the window, there was this round table, and there was. Damon Hill, there was David Coulthard, Murray Walker, I can't remember, a couple of other MotoGP Formula One drivers, and Barry Sheen. And I was going, golly, look, this fucking Barry Sheen, you know, and then of course Murray Walker and there was the other, but it was Barry Sheene, and I was so blown away. Anyway, I went to the bathroom, I came back, and he was sitting on my chair, chatting up my to be wife, and as I got close, I could hear him say, he goes, Olivia, you're a gorgeous girl. Do you want to come to Australia with me? And I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, no, my girlfriend doesn't want to come to Australia with you, but I do. And I swear he paused for a long time and he gave me a big look up and down and he went, nah, I don't think so. And he walked up and it's the only time I've been so privileged that someone was chatting my girlfriend up at the time.
That's a massive kudos.
I know, yeah, Barry Sheene.
A bit of a flex. Dude, his
amazing.
son is a fucking absolute weapon as well.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely romanced a few women in his time.
I saw him the other day. I was at the Goodwood members meeting, and they did a Barry Sheene and James Hunt weekend because they both won their championships
same year.
At the same year.
Yeah.
I think Barry had it, and so I was down there riding some of the bikes, and he was down there as well, and a bunch of other motorcycle riders, and it was nice. It was nice to, and I jumped on this bike. I'd never met the guy before. He had a great bike, and I'm going around the corner. It was only an exhibition lap, so about 6 or 7 laps of an exhibition thing. You know what races are like. They're all fucking going all over the place. And so I come out, and before I know it, the whole fucking load have gone past me, and I'm thinking, right, okay. And then I'm barreling around the first 2 corners of Goodwood. It's quite fast, and there's a mound where you can't see the exit, and it wants to. You feel like you've been pushed out, but there's actually a lot of room.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going, and as I'm going along, I'm going, God, I never really brake checked this bike, and I wonder, are the tires old? I said, I've never ridden this. Has he looked after it? And then I'm going around and braking really hard and thinking, I hope these tires and brakes work.
At that point, it's too late.
And it's too late now.
To have these thoughts.
So just get it out. But anyway, it was great fun riding these bikes from the 70s. Was it 70s? I suppose it would. Yeah. Anyway, it was lovely.
What's still left on your bucket list, motorcycle wise?
I think
you got 20 summers, so how are we going to fill them up?
I think I would love to do a few more European tracks with sports bikes.
Yeah.
And I think with my injuries, it's much less impact.
Yeah.
So
because you broke both legs, right?
Yeah. Well, I broke both legs and my hand in 2016.
And that was a car pulled out in front of you?
Yeah, car pulled, decided to turn left. I was launching a Triumph Tiger 1200 when it first came out.
Yep.
And I got clipped by this car and then hit a wall, and so I destroyed my legs. And that was 27 operations to get my legs working again properly so I could walk.
Oh my God.
It was quite funny because one of the guys from Triumph, I was lying there and all the bones had come out, and I tried to get up and this leg was flopping around.
So it was compound fracture?
Yeah, and it was just blood everywhere.
Oh no.
Anyway, I went back and lay down, then realized my right ankle had been ripped out and all the tendons had been ripped off the bone and broken, lots of breaks in there as well. And then my hand, actually my hand broke along here as well because of the glove. You know those knuckle gloves you get, plastic?
Yeah.
Well, I'd obviously hit something hard, and the plastic rim here had dug into my hand and broke my hand. So I now wear those rubber gloves that go across it, don't have any hard plastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a bit of a blow, and I remember waking up in the hospital the next morning thinking, fucking hell, I'm looking at my legs and my arm, and I'm thinking,
and you're like in your 50s at this point.
This is bad. Yeah. And I'm thinking, this is bad. And I was starting to feel really sorry for myself. And then I noticed there was someone else in the room, and there was a guy beside me in bed, and he'd had some accident, not bike related. He'd had an accident. And he was paralyzed. And I looked at him, and I looked back at my injuries, and I started laughing. And I started thinking, well, actually, it's not so bad. And so anyway, did that. And then the guy from Triumph was looking at me and he said, Charlie, I know this looks bad now, but you'll be all right. And he said, but you got one thing going for you. And I said, well, what's that? And he goes, well, you're the first person ever to write off a Tiger 1200.
Oh. Like, yeah.
And it's sort of like, yeah, okay, I've got that.
Yeah, great.
And then that was fine. And then I got back and started walking again. And
how long was that recovery process?
About a year. I think sort of 3 months of shitting on a commode. Actually, first time I sat in a toilet was really quite nice. I was in a wheelchair with these two broken legs, and I was starting to be able to put a bit of weight on my right leg, and I kept going past the toilet below the stairs, and I thought, and then one day I thought, I can get on there, and so I wheeled the wheelchair to the stairs or the landing, and I shuffled across because I was bum shuffling up the stairs to go to the shower by this stage. And so I bum shuffled down, dragged myself along the corridor, swung my legs into the bathroom, which had 2 steps down under the stairs, tiny little bathroom. And I thought, I'll stand up, pull my pants down, swivel round, sit on the toilet.
Land on the toilet.
And I thought, fucking got this nailed. And I got up, spun around, missed the toilet, and then got wedged between the toilet and the wall. And I was lying with my legs crossed with this big fucking cage on my leg, and I was stuck. And my daughter walked past, and I said, Doon, help me. I said, I need some help. And she looked at me, she said, fuck off, I'm not helping you. And off I went. I finally sort of dragged myself back on top into this toilet seat and sat down. And I have to say, it was one of the greatest poops I think I've ever had.
Little things, eh?
Yeah, there was, and that was such a big step.
Yeah, in your recovery.
In my recovery. And then anyway, I got better with that. And then 2018 had a much worse crash, and I broke my pelvis and had massive head injury, and destroyed all the my ribs on this side, collarbone ribs and everything. So collapsed lung for the third time.
God.
And then snapped my forearm, and that all bent backwards, and all bones came out, and on that one, and brain bleeds, and pelvis broke that as well. And that was when we were negotiating to do Long Way Up with Apple, and they wanted to see you and I together. See our relationship and stuff like that. And I was lying in bed with all these injuries, and Ewan and Dave and Russ were going, no, Charlie, he's around, but he's filming down in Africa, and he hasn't got, he can't get up yet, signal. But he'll come, he'll be back late. All this time, and I was recovering from that, and that was another 10 operations to get all that fixed, and then when Apple saw the first episode, we put all of those injuries in, and I'd crashed in Africa in Bloemfontein and crushed my lung and my ribs again on that one, and then when Apple saw it, they said, well, hang on a minute. You never told us that Charlie had 10 operations to get himself shit together to be able to do the TV. They said we'd never have...
We would have never
got it. And they said, well, that's exactly why we didn't tell you.
Yeah.
So,
but it asked for forgiveness.
But that was 37 operations to in the space between 16 and 19.
That's so shit.
To get back. And then, like all the others, there's been loads of other collarbones and other bits and pieces in the past as well.
So that's making it a bit harder to do some of the bigger adventure stuff, the off-road stuff.
So the big enduro and motocross is it's a bit more because it's so impacting.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Whereas if you're doing track days and stuff like that, it's a much smoother, non-impacty. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So
the
that's my excuse to my wife anyway.
The bucket list is
bucket
more
list
around the Europe.
Yeah, but more around Europe. The other thing would be I think you and I would love to do another one. I think we have a little plan about that. Maybe a couple more if it all goes well.
Yeah.
And things happen that way. Would love to do that. I've got this 20 summers thing that I'm sort of trying to. That's going straight onto YouTube. So that's a kind of bucket list thing. I've got this other thing where I'm starting to do riding with friends and stuff who ride motorbikes, and then going back to I've got this studio at home with a kitchen in it, and so I do a lot of cooking And so then I'll go and cook them a meal and talk about their latest movie or life, and a bit like we're doing this kind of thing. But I'm cooking them a meal, and then that kind of thing. So
That's awesome.
lots of stuff going on.
Yeah. What are you going to be doing for the 20 summers? What kind of stuff?
We just did one. We did a pilot kind of one to sort of show people what we want to do, and we went down to Lyme Regis, and there's a place there where you can learn to build boats, and it's a 40-week course. It's a long old course, but in the end of it, having not been able to, use a saw or a chisel, you end up being a master carpenter, and you would have built a proper wooden sailboat. And lots of young people do it. Instead of going to university, they'll do that course and then become master builders or master carpenters. And there's lots of older people who are in their 60s and 70s. There was a guy we met from Formula One. He was a chief designer for Williams and for some other teams. And he kind of has done that course. And we met this other guy who's another guy who'd gone through the course, and he now volunteers to make sure that it's like a non-profit kind of organization type thing, keeps it going. It's changed their lives.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do. And so it's stories like that. Another guy paints all his life, loved painting. He's bought a little place in Tuscany, and he does these 2-week painting courses, and people come, learn to paint, and they go off and start painting. All sorts of stuff. So stuff like that, just to give people, lots of people have spent so much time just working and haven't thought about what to do next.
Yeah, because I think time is so different now to say what it was 30 or 40 years ago. You're late 50s and it's like just there's so much life ahead. But 30 years ago, well, I guess the previous generation, 60 was just fucking pack it up.
And coming out of the Second World War and stuff like that, life expectancy wasn't the same. But then my father has a great saying, and it's interesting when he says that that old age is punishment for living a healthy life. So don't be too healthy, because you want to. He's 92 and is struggling, because he's stuck in a wheelchair and he's lost a lot of mobility, and he's a bit blind and he's a bit deaf, and he finds it hard to verbalize these days, and it's heartbreaking because of the man that he was, who shaped global cinema, and how Tarantino always said that some of the biggest influences of movies in his life have been Point Blank, Deliverance, and some other films that my father made, along with many other films. But he shaped
generations,
the movie world, and generations of people. No,
and lived a very healthy life. And is now
3 wives.
and is
lots
now
of shenanigans.
Yeah,
I'm sure him and Barry probably would have gotten on quite well.
Mate, this has been fantastic. I was extremely excited to see you in Isle of Man, and I very, very rarely would walk up to somebody and just
I'm glad you did.
Cold ask for to do the pod, but I was like, I've always wanted to have yourself on, just after what you guys did.
It's very kind, and looking at all the people that you guys have interviewed, I feel very honoured that you'd even want me on here. So thank you.
Well, I think that you guys have really shaped a lot of people's lives inadvertently, and I think that's the people that want to be leaders probably shouldn't be leaders. And it's, and it's not like you guys went out to try and shape the world of adventure motorcycling. And that's exactly why you both ended up doing that. But even my parents, it changed the course of their life. I think seeing what you guys did, and now they've traveled and ridden all over the world, and, really lit up my want to do adventures. And I hope that I can do a bunch that are, I guess, in a similar kind of vein over my career. So it's
well, we have time
We do have time.
I've got 20 summers. You've got probably 30 or 40 of them. So
Yep.
use them wisely.
Yeah, and I'll definitely try and come on a ride with you.
Yeah.
If I can do the Australia thing, I would.
Come along.
I would
We're
love to do
doing
that.
it in February, and just text me, message me if you're happy to be down. I mean, you don't even have to do the whole thing. You could just come along. If you're too scared to come to Tasmania with all those.
I actually love Tasmania. It is the sickest place.
It's lovely.
Have you ever done
good wine as well? Really good wine.
Have you ever done any mountain biking there?
No, never mountain biking there, but always just. And there's a lot of dirt bike riding as well. I mean, it's big. And Eric Banner did, of course, he did that great film, The Beast. Do you remember? Because he did the Targa rally there.
Oh, right.
And we used to see the film. It's about him having the car that he used, and he rebuilt it with his mates, and they went and did the Targa rally again. It's fucking funny documentary. You'd love it.
I would love to.
And he's a big biker, and he's been with us on our Australian tours. He came with us for a bit as well.
Yeah.
And Dare's come along, and if you can't do the whole thing, come along from Melbourne to Sydney or jump
I'd love
in,
to. And I mean,
want.
it's probably not a bad time. Like I'll have to do the America thing because we have like 3 months at the start of the year with Supercross. That's just, we're kind of all in. But I think they're changing a bunch of stuff this year, so maybe I won't be at as many races. So maybe I can just get in. Cause
I do a little Tuscany tour as well in September. So come along to that. That's a kind of foodie, eaty kind of one.
What bikes do you ride there?
There you can get anything you want, really, pretty much. You'll get the V4 if you want it. You can pretty much get whatever you want on that one.
Yeah. All right, let's chuck a couple on the calendar. But this was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm stoked. Hopefully we get to do some rides and keep spreading the stoke of motorcycles.
That'd be great. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.